Chapter 316. Xia Dong smirked. Are you so sure that Lin Shihao will marry you after the divorce? Bai Meiwei pursed her lips. Of course. Oh, then congratulations. You're finally going to be the mistress. Xia Dong's tone was full of sarcasm. You want to use me to make Siki sad? You're too naive. Xia Dong and Bai Meiwei didn't have much interaction to begin with, but Bai Meiwei had taken the initiative to talk to her about Yi Siki and Lin Shihao. Her intentions couldn't be more obvious. She wanted to use Xia Dong's mouth to convey these words to Siki and make her sad. Bai Meiwei's eyes flashed and she smirked. You two are really good sisters. Xia Dong chuckled. A person like you is only fit to be friends with Su Xingchen. What's the saying again? Birds of a feather flock together. Bai Meiwei clenched her fists. Her eyes were filled with anger, as though she was trying her best to suppress it. Xia Dong said mildly, Bai Meiwei, I really sympathize with you. After Xia Dong said this, she ignored her and walked past her. Bai Meiwei's sharp voice came from behind her. What do you mean? Xia Dong didn't even turn her head as she said coldly, Am I not clear enough? Are you a trash collector? You pick up the things that others throw away like their treasures. So I sympathize with you. She walked straight ahead. Bai Meiwei was so angry that her whole body was trembling. Her hands were clenched into fists. Xia Dong walked out of the room, and Bailey Han appeared from the doorway in a flash. He held her waist, and with a smirk on his lips, he said in a low voice, I'm starting to feel lucky that my wife's sharp tongue isn't used against me. Humph, Xia Dong snorted coldly. Because she was in a bad mood, she vented her anger on him and pinched his waist. Men are all bad. As long as the red flag at home doesn't fall, the red flag outside is always swaying. Honey, you've wronged me. The man standing in front of you is definitely a good man. Bailey Han hugged her tightly and led her down the stairs. Xia Dong looked up at him with a gentle smile on his handsome face, as if he would tolerate her no matter how she threw a tantrum. She couldn't help but rub his face and snorted, Your performance is not bad for the time being, but you still have to go through a long-term test. He stroked her hair as if he was comforting a pet. Don't worry. The sun and the moon can bear witness to my feelings for you. Mushy. She rolled her eyes at him, but the corners of her lips curled up. After returning home, Xia Dong was still brooding over this matter. Hubby, I didn't expect that Bai Meiwei and you were actually relatives. Why didn't you tell me before? You're still thinking about this? Bailey Han helped her take off her coat and hung it on the hanger. I don't like her. I hate her. It was this hateful woman who caused the breakdown of Siki and Lin Shihao's relationship. You never asked about it. Why did I remember to tell you about those irrelevant people? Bailey Han ruffled her hair helplessly. Don't be angry, okay? Irrelevant people? Aren't you relatives? Xia Dong glared at him. Her father, Bai Jiao, is just an adopted son of my maternal uncle and grandfather. He rarely interacts with us. Bai Meiwei is even more out of the question. I almost forgot that I had a relative like her. Bailey Han kissed her cheek. Do you feel better now? Yeah, a little better. She opened her arms and hugged him, rubbing against his chest. She gritted her teeth and said, I hate mistresses. I hate mistresses too. Let's not talk to her anymore. He sat on the sofa and helped her onto his lap. Yeah, okay. Something seemed to be wrong. Xia Dong suddenly looked down and realized that someone was burying his head in her neck. The corner of her mouth twitched. Hubby, what are you doing? It's obvious that I'm planting strawberries. He sucked on the delicate skin of her neck. She was speechless. I'm talking to you very seriously now, he continued to plant strawberries. I'm also proving my loyalty to you very seriously. His hand caressed her soft skin, and she couldn't help but shiver. You don't have to do this to prove your loyalty. Of course you do, because it only reacts to you. He deliberately rubbed that hot part of his body against her waist. Xia Dong's cheeks were red, and she couldn't help but hug his waist. Who knows? You and Su Yunxian have been together for so many years. Are you jealous? Bailey Han bit her red lips, and his laughter was deep and pleasant. I'm not jealous. Xia Dong turned her head away, not wanting to let him have his way. Unexpectedly, her earlobe rubbed against his lips. He licked it gently, and an electric shock immediately passed through her body. His hands became even more unrestrained, and his low voice was bewitching. Back then, you didn't just steal my clothes, you also stole something else. What? She raised her beautiful neck, and her eyes were a little dazed. My first time. He suddenly lowered his head and bit her red fruit. She trembled sensitively, and her hands hugged him tightly, but her mouth was still unforgiving. Even if what you said is true. In those 5 years, you didn't touch Su Yunxian? Can you bear it? That's why I said it only has feelings for you. He held her waist and adjusted his position. No way, it's so magical. Xia Dong felt like she had been deceived by him, but she didn't have time to think about it, because a certain someone was already up to no good. You, don't do it here, we've never done it on the sofa. A certain someone didn't listen to her protests at all, and had already started to use actions to prove his loyalty to her. Half an hour later. Xia Dong sobbed. Hubby, I was wrong. I shouldn't have doubted your loyalty to me, Bailey Han said. There's more. Another half an hour passed. Xia Dong said, Hubby, I was wrong. I shouldn't have doubted that it wasn't your first time, Bailey Han said. There's more. An hour passed. Xia Dong said, Bailey Han, are you done? Bailey Han said, I'm not done. Hubby, let me go. I believe that you haven't touched Su Yunxian in the past 5 years. I believe that you only have one woman, and that's me. You really believe me? Yes, I swear. Are you done? Bear with it a little longer. Soon, Bailey Han, you lied to me. I was wrong. Okay, baby. After this tragic lesson, Xia Dong no longer dared to doubt Bailey Han's loyalty to her, nor did she dare to suspect that he had touched other women. When she woke up the next day, Xia Dong's legs were weak. She really wanted to lie down like this for the whole day, but today was the second day of the new year, and the family of 6 had to go to her aunt's house to pay a New Year's visit. She had no choice but to support her waist and force herself to get up. When she got out of bed, her legs were trembling and she almost fell to the ground. Fortunately, Bailey Han came out of the bathroom and quickly supported her. He had the faint fragrance of a shower on his body. He laughed softly and said, Do you want me to help you wash up? Go away, Xia Dong pushed him angrily. It's all your fault. Why was it so unfair? They had clearly exercised for a long time, and he was the one who exercised. He was full of energy, but she was listless. After soaking in a hot bath, she felt much more comfortable. However, it was getting late and they had to hurry up and leave. The couple took the 4 children and drove to Xia Yun's house. After the Rolls-Royce drove out of the manor's gate, a white Maserati parked in the distance slowly followed behind them. Bailey Han quickly realized that someone was following them. His deep eyes flashed and the corners of his lips curved. Dear, hold on tight. And the 3 little guys behind us, sit tight. Xiao Bao shouted, Dad, what are you doing? Bailey Han chuckled. Getting rid of the annoying flies behind us. Someone is following us? Xiao Bao craned her neck and looked back. She saw a white Maserati not far from them. Everyone, sit tight. Bailey Han sped up and the car immediately flew out like an arrow. They were already not far from the city and the number of cars started to increase. He shuttled through the traffic with ease and took a few turns. When he finally drove to the main road, the person behind the car had already disappeared. Dad, have you gotten into trouble again recently? Xiao Bao's beautiful big eyes blinked. Bailey Han chuckled. Recently, I've angered the group of old men on the board of directors at most. They won't go so far as to follow me. Xiaodong pursed her lips and her expression did not look too good. She suspected that the person following behind them might be Xiao Bao's biological mother, Suzuki Qian Sakura. Suzuki Qian Sakura had said that after the spring festival, she would take Xiao Bao away, so it was very likely that she had already arrived in a city. Bailey Han glanced at Xiaodong. Dear? Ah. Xiaodong looked up blankly. What's wrong with you? You don't look too good. Xiaodong smiled. It's nothing. Maybe the car was driving too fast just now. I feel a little uncomfortable. Do you want to stop and rest for a while? Bailey Han looked worried. It's okay, I'm much better now. Besides, we're almost at Aunt's house. Xiaodong quickly changed the topic. Hubby, I heard from Aunt that cousin Gao Feng has also come back to visit his family this year. Didn't you say that he works at the American National Defense Research Institution? Is the American side willing to let him return? It was already incredible that the American government was willing to use Chinese people to do that kind of confidential research work, let alone let him return to visit his family. Yes, I also think it's very strange, but this also shows that cousin is very powerful. Otherwise, the American government would not agree to let him return to China in order to appease him. Xiaodong's brows were filled with pride. When she was young, Gao Feng was her idol. This was the first time Gao Feng had returned to China to visit his family after going abroad. This time, not only did he come back, he also brought his wife, a beautiful American woman, Joanna, who was also his colleague. It was said that they had just gotten married last year. Because the government kept it a secret, Gao Feng was not allowed to tell his family. After a year of hard work, Gao Feng persuaded the authorities to bring his wife back to China to visit his family. Welfare, Hongcha 866. Chapter 317. Although Xiaodong and Gao Feng hadn't seen each other for 7 years, they quickly warmed up to each other because of their blood ties. In order to get closer to her husband's family, Xiao Anna had specially learned Chinese for a period of time. Although she wasn't very fluent, she could communicate with everyone. She especially liked children. When others were chatting, she would hang out with Xiao Yi and the other 3 little guys. She spoke broken Chinese and played games with them. The children laughed kindly and helped her to correct her pronunciation. She would smile brightly and say, "Thank you," with perfect pronunciation, making everyone laugh. The family was happy and harmonious, and the laughter was endless. When they parted, Xiaodong was a little reluctant. Gao Feng hugged her and said goodbye with a gentle smile. Xia, I'm often not in China. I'll have to trouble you to take care of Mom and Dad. Xiaodong said with a smile, Cousin, you're treating me like an outsider. In my heart, Aunt and Uncle are my biological parents. I'll definitely take good care of them. Don't worry and work hard abroad. Don't embarrass the Chinese. Gao Feng nodded and turned his gaze to Bailey Han. Han, treat Xia well. Bailey Han smiled. I will. After Xiao Anna said goodbye to the couple, she hugged the 3 children reluctantly. On the way home, the Maserati didn't appear again. Xiaodong also made up her mind that she would tell Bailey Han the truth tonight. On the other side, Bailey Yun had already driven out. He had already arranged a meeting place with Li Duobao. When his car drove to the meeting place, he saw a girl in a yellow wool coat standing by the street. She wore a pink hat, her neat fringe covered her eyebrows, and a white scarf wrapped around her neck. She stood there obediently with a peaceful smile on her lips. She was like a bright ray of sunshine in the cold winter, attracting the attention of passers-by. Bailey Yun opened the car door and walked to her side. He said with a hint of reproach, "Why didn't you wait inside? It's so cold outside." Behind her was a cafe. Li Duobao stuck out his tongue. "I was afraid that you wouldn't be able to find me." Bailey Yun raised his eyebrows. "I'm not an idiot like you." It seemed that the more familiar he was with her, the more he liked to provoke her. She pouted but did not refute. "Why aren't you talking?" Li Duobao frowned. Because you're telling the truth. I have no reason to refute. Bailey Yun couldn't help but laugh. Silly girl, I didn't expect you to be so self-aware. She smiled brightly. Yu said that this is my greatest strength. He rubbed his chin. She's wrong. What's wrong? She blinked in confusion. He looked at her sparkling eyes and smirked. Your greatest strength is that you're silly. She turned her head away and silently shed tears. Did he need to remind her of every sentence? This was too much. Let's go, silly girl. Bailey Yun suddenly grabbed her cold hand and led her to the car. Li Duobao's face suddenly turned red like a big apple. She lowered her head and stared at their hands. You, let go of me, Bailey Yun ignored her. He dragged her to the car and opened the door for her. Get in. Li Duobao bit her lip and sat in the front passenger seat. Bailey Yun sat beside her. She immediately turned her head to the window and scratched the car door gently with her fingers. Bailey Yun was an expert in love. How could he not know that she was shy now? He chuckled and said, Have you booked a restaurant? She still didn't dare to look at him. Yes. Do you eat spicy food? Yes, I can. That's good. The restaurant is called Spicy Space. It's at Zinjiku. Bailey Yun booked the GPS and started the car. He turned to look at her. She was leaning against the car door and curled up into a small ball. She looked as cute as a fur ball. He coughed. No way. Didn't I just touch your hand? Do you have to stay so far away from me? She was silent for a while and said gloomily, Other than my father, you're the first man to hold my hand. Bailey Yun was stunned. Haven't you been in love before? He still remembered the story she had told him before. The man she had a crush on had confessed to her because of a bet with someone else. He thought that she was pretty and had a good personality. There should be many people who liked her. She lowered her head and said in a muffled voice, I've only been in love once. That was the time I told you. He has never held my hand. He thought for a while and apologized solemnly. I'm sorry. She said, Oh. He frowned. What does oh mean? It means that I've forgiven you. She suddenly turned her head and looked at him seriously with her clear black and white eyes. Bai Liyun, don't do this again. I'll misunderstand. Although she was silly, she was still a girl. She would also misunderstand because of some of his actions. Her serious expression was very similar to a certain person's. Their silly looks were also very similar. Out of the blue, Bai Liyun said something that shocked even himself. Li Duobao, let's go out. Li Duobao's eyes widened. You, say that again. She thought she had heard wrongly. Bailey Yun pursed his lips. He had already realized that he had said something unbelievable. However, since it wasn't that person, it didn't matter who it was. He said slowly, let's date. Li Duobao trembled. She hadn't heard wrongly. She rejected him without hesitation. I object. Bailey Yun looked at her in surprise. Why? I'm handsome, rich, and likable. What's wrong with that? Li Duobao almost fainted. That's the problem. You're handsome, rich, and likable. Why do you like me? I don't want to play emotional games with you. Bai Liyun's deep eyes stared at her. The corners of his lips curled up. He didn't expect this silly girl to be so smart. Okay, pretend I didn't say that. That's good. In short, I'm not a casual person. Li Duobao was too shocked and patted her little heart. Bailey Yun didn't say anything else until the car arrived at the destination. He opened the car door for her and suddenly whispered in her ear, You deserve better. What do you mean? Li Duobao frowned. She didn't understand why he said that. He smiled but didn't say anything. He walked straight ahead. She quickly chased after him. The spicy space was a hot pot restaurant. It wasn't big, but it wasn't small either. The decoration was warm and it was very clean. Even though it was the new year, there were still a lot of customers here. The atmosphere was very good as the family gathered around the hot pot. Li Duobao had booked a seat in advance. The waiter led them into the private room. The private room was very warm. They took off their coats and hung them on the hanger at the door. Li Duobao was wearing a white lace dress inside. With her hair tied into a bun, she looked as cute as a princess. Bailey Yun was wearing a black sweater. It was very tight and outlined the lines of his chest. He had handsome features and looked very thin. Li Duobao didn't expect him to have a good figure. Li Duobao inadvertently glanced at his chest and quickly looked away shyly. She pushed the menu in front of Bailey Yun and said generously, "Order whatever you like. Don't stand on ceremony with me." Bailey Yun raised his eyebrows. "I can eat a lot." She patted her chest heroically. "It's okay. Leave it to me." He glanced at her chest and couldn't help but laugh. "Don't pat it. It's getting smaller." Li Duobao's cheeks were tinged with a faint pink. She snorted. "Pervert." He laughed. His voice was magnetic and happy. They ordered a double-flavored pot. Li Duobao loved spicy food. Before cooking, she asked Bailey Yun for his opinion. He smiled and said that he could eat spicy food too. Thus, she poured most of the food into the spicy soup. The bottom of the pot was steaming and the water was boiling. The vegetables were already cooked and emitted a tempting fragrance. Li Duobao pitifully waited for Bailey Yun to start first. Bailey Yun raised his eyebrows and picked up some vegetables from the spicy soup. He rolled the vegetables in the sesame sauce. When the temperature dropped, he slowly put it into his mouth. He chewed a mouthful. His slender eyebrows furrowed and quickly relaxed. Li Duobao looked at him eagerly. "How is it? Is it good?" Bailey Yun swallowed the vegetables in his mouth and drank a mouthful of drink. "It's a little spicy." Actually, it was very spicy. He could barely feel his mouth. She frowned in distress. "I forgot to tell you that this is an authentic Chongqing hot pot. The chili is very strong. How about this? You can eat the non-spicy food over there." Bailey Yun raised his eyebrows and smiled. "I can eat spicy food, but in front of you, I can't eat spicy food. Come, eat this." Li Duobao used clean chopsticks that hadn't picked up any food before and picked up some food from the clear soup into his bowl. "Don't worry about me. Hurry up and eat. You're obviously drooling." He teased her. "No way," she muttered unhappily. Her chopsticks had already reached into the red soup and picked up a large portion of it into her bowl. "Wow, it's so delicious. It's so spicy." Li Duobao ate contentedly. Her eyes were sparkling, and her pink lips were red from the spiciness. It was as if she had been kissed hard. Bailey Yun was drinking water. He was agitated by this sudden thought and almost choked. He tilted his head and coughed non-stop. Li Duobao quickly put down her chopsticks and patted his back. Then, she pulled his ear. "Are you better now?" Bailey Yun stopped coughing. His handsome face was red from coughing, and his eyes were misty as he stared at her. She felt uncomfortable being stared at by him. She let go of her hand embarrassedly. "I'm sorry. When I was young, I choked. My mother helped me pull my ear. She said it helped relieve the pain." He grinned. "No wonder. I suddenly feel that you look like my mother. It hurts my self-esteem." Li Duobao moved her but silently and sat back in her seat. Attention, Songshu 566. Chapter 318. Li Duobao hugged his round belly and followed behind Bailey Yun. He climbed into the Ferrari and stretched his body in satisfaction. "It's so delicious. My whole body is warm now. It's great." Bailey Yun raised his fox-like eyes slightly and laughed. You're really easy to take care of. As long as there's chili for every meal, I won't starve to death. She stared at him with a smile. Are you full? I'm barely full. He smiled mischievously. But, seeing someone eating so happily like a little pig, I'm full too. Li Duobao sweated. He put his hands together and said pitifully, I'm sorry. Next time, I'll definitely not bring you to eat such spicy food. There's a next time. He raised an eyebrow and his lips curled into a mischievous smile. Are you asking me out? I just said it casually, as if he didn't hear her. He continued, okay, let's go for Western food next time. I'll be the host. I already said that I just said it casually. It's still early. Do you want to watch a movie? Watch a movie? Bailey Yun nodded. Yeah, don't tell me you've never watched a movie in the cinema before. Li Duobao smiled sheepishly. I just didn't expect you to suggest such a pure way to pass the time. He raised an eyebrow. How do you think I'll pass the time? Nightclubs, clubbing, and so on. That's what the newspapers and magazines used to write about. Second young Master Bailey frequented nightclubs to seek pleasure. She said the last few words very softly, but he still heard it clearly. He laughed. Seems like I'm already famous. Even you've seen my glorious deeds. Li Duobao was a little embarrassed. Don't misunderstand. I don't mean anything else. He nodded seriously. I know. With your limited brain capacity, you can't possibly have any other ideas. You don't have to retaliate like this. As they chatted, Bailey Yun had already arrived at the entrance of the largest movie theater in the city. Thinking back, he really didn't do such a pure pastime. Most of the time, he would find someone he liked in a bar and then carry her to bed. There were many promotional posters in the corridor. Bailey Yun put his hands in his pockets and smiled casually. Which one do you want to watch? Human Skin in 4. I've been looking forward to it for a long time. Li Duobao excitedly pointed at a horror movie poster. The corner of his mouth twitched. Change it. Why? I love horror movies. I want to watch a horror movie. Bailey Yun clenched his right fist and coughed. He looked a little embarrassed. I don't like it. Li Duobao suddenly realized and shouted, You don't dare to watch horror movies. He quickly covered her mouth. Keep your voice down. It was very embarrassing for a man to not dare to watch a horror movie. She blinked and signaled for him to let go. The lips under his palm were soft and felt good to the touch. He reluctantly retracted his hand. So, let's change to another movie. She looked dejected. All right then. How about that sci-fi movie? He knocked on her forehead. I thought romantic movies were your style. She was still depressed because she couldn't watch the movie she liked. She looked up and bared her teeth at him. What's so good about romantic movies? They only make girls cry. I just don't want you to watch a horror movie. Is there a need to show me such a bitter and vengeful face? Okay, I'll listen to you and watch a horror movie. Bailey Yun naturally held her hand and walked to the ticket counter. Halfway there, he suddenly realized that something was wrong and quickly let go of her hand. Li Duobao stared at him with a pair of sparkling eyes. I was careless and forgot about it. Bailey Yun's charming foxy eyes blinked. He reached out his hand and smiled mischievously. At most, you can hold my hand and I'll make it up to you. Do you really think I'm an idiot? Li Duobao slapped his hand away and rushed forward like a cannonball. He quickly jogged to catch up with her. Don't be angry. I didn't do it on purpose. She suddenly stopped in her tracks and quickly turned around. He ran too fast and couldn't stop in time. His hard chest bumped into her small nose. She covered her nose and wailed. I'm sorry. Let me see if there's a nosebleed. He hurriedly cupped her face, grabbed her hand, and moved it away from her face. Her nose was red, but fortunately, there was no nosebleed. She was in so much pain that her face scrunched up. She gritted her teeth and complained, "Why are you so close to me? Don't be angry. Be good." He stroked her hair as if he was stroking Dowdu, soothing her hair. She stared at him with her big beautiful eyes. "Take your hand back." Okay. 2 steps away from me." Okay. He moved according to her instructions. He was so obedient that he didn't look like Bailey Yun at all. The two of them walked to the ticket counter. Li Duobao took out his wallet. "Miss, please give me 2 adult tickets for X-Men." "Okay, let's go." She turned around and waved the movie tickets in her hand. He looked at her deeply. "Didn't you say you wanted to watch a horror movie?" She puffed up her cheeks. "Didn't you say you didn't like it?" A warm smile appeared in his eyes, and the corners of his lips curled up. Bailey Yun held popcorn in one hand and a drink in the other. He shuttled through the dark cinema with her and found a seat. It was a 3D movie, and the visual effects were quite good. The scene was grand, and Li Duobao was attracted by the exciting plot. He almost forgot about the popcorn in his hand. Bailey Yun reached out to grab a handful of popcorn from her arms from time to time and chewed happily. Seeing that she was attracted by the movie, he had the idea of pranking her. He pinched a piece of popcorn in his hand and quietly put it to her lips. He whispered, "Open your mouth." She stared at the screen and didn't even look at his hand. Gigai opened her mouth, but he didn't put the popcorn in her mouth. Instead, he suddenly retracted his hand and put it in his own mouth. Li Duobao waited for a while, but there was no movement. She turned around and saw a certain someone chewing popcorn happily. His eyes were sparkling as he stared at her and smiled. He was obviously proud of his successful prank. "Childish," she said angrily. She grabbed a handful of popcorn from the paper bag and chewed it as if she was taking revenge. The Ferrari stopped below Li Duobao's house. After the two of them said goodbye, Li Duobao waved and turned to leave. Bailey Yun looked at her round back and suddenly shouted, "Li Duobao, huh?" She looked back at him with a blank face. A warm smile appeared in his eyes, and his voice was gentle and magnetic. "Thank you. I haven't been so happy in a long time." She was stunned. Her eyes curved and 2 cute dimples appeared on her face. "You're welcome." She waved again and hummed a tune as she ran away. Bai Lian patted his forehead. He felt as if he was going to fall ill. He actually felt that this silly chick was very cute. Bailey Yun drove the Ferrari back to the old mansion and hummed a tune as he walked upstairs. His phone suddenly rang. It was an unfamiliar number, and a familiar woman's voice came from it. "Bailey Yun, I want to see you." Bailey Yun said lazily, "There are many women who want to see me. Tell me a reason why I must see you." The woman chuckled. "We met at Seductive Charm. I'm Sophia." His tone was indifferent. "We don't have anything in common. There's no need to meet again." Her voice was lazy and gentle. "I don't think so. I know a secret about you. If you don't come, you might not know it for the rest of your life. I'm not interested. It's related to 5 years ago when you were in America. You took drugs and went to jail. This matter is more interesting than the 2 things I just said. Are you really not willing to hear it?" Her voice was soft and seductive, but in his ears, it was extremely cold. He suddenly tightened his grip on the phone, and his voice was cold. "Location? Outside the manor, turn right for 100 meters. Bailey Yun put on the coat that he had just taken off and walked out of the manor with steady steps. His face was expressionless, and his eyes were cold. After leaving the manor, he turned right for 100 meters. A white Maserati was parked by the roadside. He knocked on the window of the back seat, and the car door was unlocked. He opened the door from the outside. The air conditioner was on in the car, and it was very warm. Sophia was wearing a low-cut black dress that exposed a large area of her chest, and her deep cleavage was faintly discernible. The dress just covered her buttocks, and her slender legs were crossed. Her black stockings gave off a seductive glow under the dim light. Her red lips parted slightly, and her slender fingers patted the seat beside her. She smiled flirtatiously. "Come and sit." Bailey Yun glanced at her indifferently and sat down beside her. "Tell me, why did you call me here?" She leaned against him softly and wrapped her arms around his waist. She hugged him tightly and said in a gentle voice, "Ah Yun, don't be so cold. No matter what, we were once husband and wife for a period of time." Bailey Yun's body stiffened, and he suddenly reached out, pinched her chin, and pulled her face closer to the light to look at it carefully. It was a very delicate and beautiful face, but unfortunately, he did not have any impression of it. His slender fox eyes narrowed dangerously. "Who are you?" She chuckled. "You already don't remember my English name, but do you still remember my Japanese name? I'm Suzuki Chian Sakura. You used to call me Chian Sakura." Suzuki Chian Sakura. Bailey Yun frowned, and tried hard to dig out the name in his mind. It seemed a little familiar, but he could not remember. "You actually can't remember me. Sigh, I'm so sad." Suzuki Chian Sakura hugged him and leaned her head on his chest. "Ah Yun, it seems that you used to have too many women." Bailey Yun did not deny it. When he was first sent to America by Bailey's family, he lived a very long life of debauchery. He took drugs, had promiscuous relationships, gambled, and mingled with people in the underworld. He had done all these things, and the number of women he had slept with was uncountable. Ad Shinwoo 799. Chapter 319. Her slender fingers were nimbly caressing his chest as they wandered about. Bailey Yun grabbed her wrist and said, "So you're saying that you're the woman I had a one-night stand with before?" Suzuki Chian Sakura looked up and blew hot air into his ear. She chuckled. "It wasn't a one-night stand. We fooled around for at least a month. But it's a pity that you don't remember." Bailey Yun pinched his eyebrows. "I really don't remember. Make it clear." Chian Sakura chuckled. 6 years ago, you were studying in the United States, and I was also studying there. We met in a bar, and we fooled around for more than a month. Later, you hooked up with a waitress from the United Kingdom, and you dumped me. Do you remember?" Bailey Yun smiled bitterly. "Sorry. Forget it. I didn't expect you to remember." Suzuki Chian Sakura stroked his handsome face and smiled. Bailey Yun looked down at her. "You came to find me to rekindle our relationship?" She narrowed her eyes and there was a strange glint in them. "That's only one of my goals. There's another goal. I want to tell you something." He raised his eyebrows and motioned for her to continue. She smiled ambiguously and stroked his lips. "There was once when you didn't wear a condom and I forgot to take the morning after pill. I got pregnant." Bailey Yun's eyes narrowed and he said, "And then?" She played it down as if it had nothing to do with her. "Then, I went back to Japan and gave birth to the child. He's already 5 years old now." Bailey Yun felt as if he had been struck by lightning. His heart almost stopped beating and all the blood in his body rushed to his head. His fingers trembled slightly. After a while, he found his voice. "You're saying that I already have a child now?" "Yes, it's a son. Are you happy?" She wrapped her soft body around him. He pushed her away abruptly. His gaze was fierce and malicious as he pinched her chin with one hand. "What are you trying to do by telling me all this now?" A sharp pain came from her chin, and she couldn't help but frown. "It hurts. Loosen up a little." "Answer me," he roared. He didn't loosen his grip, but instead increased it. She sucked in a few breaths of cold air and said while enduring the pain, "The child is already grown up. He can't live without a father. How about we start over?" "Impossible." He refused without hesitation. "Why? You liked me a lot back then." Her eyes were misty, making her look pitiful. However, there was no pity in his heart. He sneered and said, "Back then? Don't you know what kind of person I was back then? It was just a game." How could he have fallen in love with her? I advise you to dispel those thoughts as soon as possible. He flung her away and took out a handkerchief from his pocket. He carefully wiped his fingers as if they were stained with something dirty. Suzuki Chisakura clenched her fists. "Don't tell me you don't care about your son anymore." Bailey Yun opened the car door and stepped out. He turned back to look at her. In the darkness, his expression couldn't be seen clearly. "I'll give you a sum of alimony." "How much do you want?" "Just tell me." Suzuki Chisakura jumped out of the car agitatedly. "No, I don't want money. I just want our family of 3 to be reunited." He tidied his clothes slowly and said indifferently, "You're thinking too much. Think of a sum and let me know within 3 days." He didn't look at her anymore and turned to leave. She called his name a few times, but he ignored her. She angrily returned to the car and slammed the door. Bailey Yun looked calm on the surface, but his mind was in a mess. He actually had a 5-year-old son. He couldn't believe it. No, he had to calm down. He had no impression of this woman. Even if they had lived together before, it didn't mean that what she said was true. When she contacted him again, he had to get her to show him evidence. Even if he comforted himself like this, Bailey Yun was still annoyed. He took a bottle of wine and a wine glass from the wine rack and screwed it up in his bedroom. On the other side, Xia Dong was also annoyed and uneasy. She wrung her fingers and sat at the head of the bed, waiting for Bailey Han to come out of the bathroom. Bailey Han was wearing a bathrobe. He wiped his hair with a towel and sat at the head of the bed. "Honey, why aren't you asleep yet?" She bit her lip. "Hubby, I have something to tell you." He looked into her eyes. "Speak." "I'm listening." She opened her mouth, but couldn't say the words. In the end, she pulled his sleeve with a sad face. "Hubby, if I'm hiding something from you, and it's very important, will you be angry with me?" Bailey Han put the towel aside and stroked her hair. He said softly, "If you don't want to say it, then don't. Tell me when you've thought it through." She shook her head. She was so anxious that she was about to cry. "No, if I don't say it now, I'm afraid it'll be too late. What if that woman named Suzuki Chisakura suddenly came to the house and made a scene, saying that Xiao Bao was her child? What should she do?" Bailey Han reached out and hugged her. He comforted her. "I won't be angry. Tell me, what happened?" "You can't be angry." "Okay, I won't be angry." Xia Dong closed her eyes and told him everything in one go. "When Grandma took Xiao Yi away from my arms, I was very sad and kept thinking about him. In the end, Brother Shen came up with an idea. We went to the orphanage to adopt a child about the same age as Xiao Yi. This way, I could ease my longing for Xiao Yi. That child was Xiao Bao. Now, Xiao Bao's biological mother came looking for Xiao Bao. She wants Xiao Bao back. That's what happened. Hubby, you promised me that you wouldn't be angry." She grabbed onto his bathrobe pitifully, not daring to open her eyes to look at him. But she could feel that Bailey Han's entire body had stiffened. He held her hand very tightly. He kept silent. After about 10 seconds, his body started to tremble slightly. At this moment, she realized that the man who had withstood the storm for her actually had a weak side. Her heart ached for him. She hugged him tightly and kept saying, "I'm sorry, hubby. I should have told you earlier. I've always treated Xiao Bao as my biological son, so I didn't realize it. I should have told you. I'm sorry, I'm really sorry." He kept silent and only hugged her tightly. Xia Dong was very scared. She opened her eyes and looked up at him. She saw an extremely gloomy face. His thin lips were tightly pursed and his deep eyes were staring straight ahead as if he had lost his soul. She burst into tears. "Hubby, don't scare me. If you're angry, just hit me or scold me. Don't ignore me, Bailey Han finally spoke. His voice was dry and a little cold. You should have told me earlier. I'm sorry, hubby. Xia Dong hugged him tightly. She was afraid that he would get angry and push her away and ignore her. Bailey Han felt as if there was a huge rock pressing down on his heart. It was extremely uncomfortable. However, when he lowered his head and saw that the little woman in his arms had tears all over her face and her eyes were filled with fear, a part of his heart softened. He sighed softly and stroked her hair. His voice also became gentler. Don't cry. Hubby, her careful gaze made his heart soften even more. He reached out to wipe away the tears on her face and said gently, since you adopted Xiao Bao, why did the DNA test show that he and I are biological father and son? Her eyes suddenly widened. DNA test? When did you do it? How did this happen? Bailey Han's eyes moved. He quickly understood that Xiao Bao had done the DNA test without her knowing. He explained, not long after you returned to China, Xiao Bao did a DNA test. According to him, he picked up a few strands of hair from my office. God, that guy Xiao Bao already knew that Bailey Han wasn't his father. No, that wasn't the main point. The main point was that Bailey Han wasn't his biological father. But why did the DNA test show that they were father and son? She looked at Bailey Han suspiciously and said whimsically, hubby, don't tell me you had a relationship with a Japanese woman and she gave birth to Xiao Bao and I coincidentally adopted Xiao Bao. His handsome face darkened and he gritted his teeth. Idiot, you're my only woman. Oh, hee, I'm just saying, Bailey Han knocked on her forehead. Suddenly, his eyes narrowed and he said in a low voice, Xiao Bao only picked up a strand of hair from my office. Who said that it was definitely my hair? Are you saying that someone else's hair could have fallen in your office and been picked up by Xiao Bao? Bailey Han nodded. Other than that, I can't think of any other reason. Xia Dong frowned. What do we do now? Xiao Bao's biological mother, Suzuki Qian Sakura, said that she would take Xiao Bao away after the spring festival. How did she contact you? Tell me in detail. Xia Dong explained the process of Suzuki Qian Sakura contacting her in detail. Finally, she said, actually, I suspect that the car that followed us today was Suzuki Qian Sakura's car. I'm not ruling out this possibility. Don't worry. If she wants to take Xiao Bao away, she will have to meet us eventually. Xia Dong hesitated for a moment and said, what about our family and Xiao Bao? Should we tell them the truth? We can't keep this a secret for long. I'll find time tomorrow to tell my family. As for Xiao Bao, I'll leave it to you to tell him. Xia Dong's eyes reddened. Xiao Bao must be very sad that I cheated on his feelings. Bailey Han could understand that feeling. Just like him, he had always doted on Xiao Bao. When he found out that he wasn't his biological son, he was very shocked and very sad. He stroked her long hair and said in a low voice, whether Xiao Bao is our biological son or not, our love for him will never be less. I think he will understand. Awesome novel, Hongcha 866. Chapter 320. In the Study. Old Madam Dowager, Bailey Xiong, by Jinxiu and Bailey Han sat together. Old Madam Dowager said, Han, why did you call us here? Bailey Han focused and told them about Xiao Bao's background. This was like a bolt from the blue, shocking everyone. Old Madam Dowager and the others did not recover from their shock for a long time. How could this be? Are you kidding? Bai Jinxiu stared at her son in disbelief. Didn't you do a paternity test? Bailey Han pinched the space between his eyebrows. Xiao Bao just picked up a few strands of hair from my office. I don't think those strands of hair are mine. Bailey Xiong frowned and was in a very bad mood. Then whose are they? The people who come in and out of your office are basically people from your company. Xiao Bao was adopted by Xia from Japan. How could it be so coincidental that his father is related to your company? Besides the company's employees, there are also business partners who come in and out of my office. It's not easy to check them one by one. The most important thing now is that Suzuki Chisakura wants to take Xiao Bao away. Can we let her take him away? No. Old Madame Dowager, who had been silent all this time, suddenly slammed her hand on the table and said angrily, "In my heart, Xiao Bao is a descendant of the Bailey family. I don't agree to hand him over to that Suzuki Chisakura. If she really loved Xiao Bao, she wouldn't have abandoned him years ago." Bailey Xiong sighed. "Mom, even if that's the case, Xiao Bao is still Suzuki Chisakura's biological son. We have no reason to stop them from reuniting. If Xiao Bao is willing to be with Suzuki Chisakura, we can't stop them. Why don't we ask for Xiao Bao's opinion first? If Xiao Bao doesn't want to leave, then we'll talk to Suzuki Chisakura and see if we can persuade her to give up custody of Xiao Bao." Bai Jinxiu was very sad. In her heart, the 4 children in the family were all equal. They were all Bailey's treasures. She was reluctant to give Xiao Bao away. Madame Dowager said angrily, "No matter what, I will not agree to send Xiao Bao away." "All right, Grandma, let's listen to Mom and ask for Xiao Bao's opinion first." Although the 4 of them had reached a consensus, they did not feel good in their hearts. They all sat in silence, without any movement or words. The atmosphere in the room was heavy. At the same time, Xia Dong also called Xiao Bao out of the living room. The mother and son locked themselves in Xiao Bao's room, facing each other. "Mom, if you have something to say, just say it. You've been staring at me for more than 10 minutes. Xiao Bao's little face showed a helpless expression, and his little mouth pouted. Xia Dong pulled his soft little body into her embrace. At this moment, her heart felt like it was being stabbed by a knife. She didn't know how to tell him the truth. "Mom, what's wrong? Did you have a quarrel with Dad?" Xiao Bao felt something cold and wet fall on his neck. He said indignantly, "You must have quarreled with Dad. Just you wait, I'll avenge you." The little fellow danced with joy, wanting to break free from her arms and avenge her. "No," Xia Dong hugged him tightly, and there was a hint of sobbing in her voice. "Xiao Bao, listen to Mommy. No matter what you hear later, you have to believe that Mommy and Daddy love you very much, and we will love you forever. Mom, don't cry." Xiao Bao was most afraid of his mother crying. He reached out his little hand and patted her back, carefully coaxing her. Don't cry, don't cry. I know that you and Dad love me." The more sensible he was, the sadder Xia Dong was, and the more she didn't know how to say it. "Mom, what's wrong with you?" Xiao Bao's pink little face scrunched up. Xia Dong took a deep breath and tried to calm herself down. She held his weak shoulders and looked into his eyes seriously. "Xiao Bao, listen to me. You, she stuttered for a long time, but couldn't finish her sentence. Xiao Bao was anxious. "What's wrong with me?" You are a child I adopted from an orphanage in Japan. Your biological mother is called Suzuki Chisakura. She contacted me a few days ago and said that she would take you away after the spring festival." Xia Dong finished speaking in one breath. Her hands were tightly gripping Xiao Bao's shoulders, as if she was afraid that he wouldn't be able to accept the truth and would suddenly run away. Xiao Bao was stunned. Then he laughed out loud. "Mom, are you kidding me?" "I'm not kidding you, Xiao Bao. Everything Mommy said is true." Xia Dong held his face. "Listen to me, Xiao Bao. No matter what, your daddy and I will always love you." "No, I don't believe you. You must be kidding me. I did a paternity test. Daddy and I are father and son. Technology can't lie." Xiao Bao said emotionally. "The hair you picked up doesn't belong to Daddy." "Xiao Bao, everything I said is true." Xia Dong's eyes were filled with tears. "I'm not listening. I'm not listening." Xiao Bao covered his ears and shook his head vigorously. "Xiao Bao." Xia Dong hugged him. "Listen to me. Mommy loves you. Daddy loves you too," Xiao Bao interrupted her angrily and pushed her chest hard. I'm not listening. I'm not listening. Go away. I don't want to see you. Xia Dong stroked his back and said gently, Baby, don't be agitated. Calm down first. Get out. I don't want to see you. Xiao Bao's eyes were filled with tears. He bit his lip stubbornly. Okay, I'll go out first. I'll always be your mommy. Xia Dong lowered her head and kissed his forehead. The tears in her eyes fell on his face. She quickly turned around and left with her mouth covered. There was the sound of the door closing. The tears in Xiao Bao's eyes rolled down. He slid from the sofa to the floor. He punched the thick carpet with both hands and wailed loudly. It was dinner time. The butler knocked on the door of each room and invited everyone downstairs to eat. Everyone who knew about Xiao Bao's background had no appetite. Old Madam said that she was not feeling well and did not want to go downstairs. She asked the kitchen to make a bowl of millet porridge and send it upstairs. Although Bai Jinxiu and Bailey Xiong were sitting at the dining table, they were also depressed. Bailey Yun and Bailey Jing were meeting with friends and were not at home. The butler knocked on Xiao Bao's door for a long time, but no one answered. He felt that something was wrong. He took the spare key from downstairs and opened the door. There was no one in the room. He quickly informed Bailey Han and the others. Bailey Han and Xia Dong hurried upstairs. They looked around the room and found that the small Pikachu backpack that Xiao Bao often carried on his back was gone. His small laptop and small mobile phone were also gone. Xia Dong's mind went blank and her face turned pale. Did Xiao Bao run away from home? Bailey Han held her hand. Honey, don't worry. Try calling his mobile phone. Oh, okay. Xia Dong quickly picked up the landline and dialed Xiao Bao's mobile phone number. Bailey Han informed the butler and called all the servants to the living room. He asked them if they had seen Xiao Bao. Everyone shook their heads. Bailey Han's face was terribly dark. He asked the security guard again. The security guard said that he had seen young Master Bao riding an electric bike. He also asked him at that time. Young Master Bao said that his friends were waiting for him outside the manor. He went out to meet his friends and would be back soon. The security guard did not suspect him, so he let him go. Bailey Han was furious and dismissed the security guard on the spot. He ordered someone to check the surveillance video outside the villa and found that Xiao Bao went out at 2:00 in the afternoon. At that time, the family was taking a lunch break, and the servants were not in the front hall. No wonder he was not discovered when he ran away from home. Honey, his mobile phone is off. No one is answering. What should we do? Xia Dong was so anxious that she almost lost the ability to think. Bailey Han's lips tightened. Don't worry, honey. You can ask Mika Keto. Yes, Xiao Bao and Brother Shen are very close. Maybe he went to look for Brother Shen. Xia Dong's fingers were trembling when she dialed the number. After 2 rings, the call was connected. The first thing she said was, Brother Shen, did Xiao Bao look for you? Mika Keto said in a low voice, No. What's wrong? Xia Dong was so anxious that she was about to cry. Xiao Bao found out about his identity. He ran away from home. I don't know where he went. If he contacts you, you must keep him calm. I'm afraid that he will do something stupid. Mika Keto's voice changed and sounded a little anxious. I know. I'm still in Rome. I'll immediately mobilize the brothers in a city to find Xiao Bao's whereabouts. When Xia Dong called Mika Keto, Bailey Han also notified the Dragon Gang and ordered them to immediately search the city for Xiao Bao's whereabouts. All the forces that could be mobilized were mobilized. All that was left was to wait. Xia Dong was worried and guilty. She cried until her voice was hoarse. It's all my fault. If I had been by his side, he wouldn't have had the chance to escape. Bailey Han put his arm around her shoulder and comforted her in a low voice. Honey, don't blame yourself. Xiao Bao is so smart. He will be fine. He just couldn't think straight. When he thinks it through, he will definitely contact us. What if he doesn't contact us? Although he's smart, he's still so young. What if he meets bad people? Honey, we love Xiao Bao, and Xiao Bao loves us very much. He was just being impulsive. When he calms down, he will know that we are very worried about him. He will definitely contact us. Don't scare yourself. Be good. Xiao Yi and Xiao Guai also found out that Xiao Bao had run away from home. Both of them found it unbelievable. They wanted to ask why Xiao Bao had run away from home, but when they saw how sad and anxious the adults were, they held themselves back. Bai Jinxiu coaxed the two little guys back to their room. In the room, Xiao Yi pursed her lips. Her expression was very serious. Xiao Guai's delicate brows were knitted together. She carefully tugged at Xiao Yi's sleeve and asked worriedly, "Brother Yi, does brother not want us anymore? Will he meet bad people?" Xiao Yi sighed maturely and stroked Xiao Guai's hair. "I don't know either. What happened? Why did Xiao Bao run away from home? Although he is naughty, he doesn't seem like someone who would do such a thing." Awesome novel, Songshu 566. Chapter 321. That night, Bailey Jing and Bailey Yun returned home one after the other. When they heard that Xiao Bao had run away from home, they were very surprised. Their families were not in the mood to explain too much to them, so they still did not know much about Xiao Bao's background. At around 8:00, the Dragon Gang suddenly called. They checked the exit records and found that Xiao Bao had bought a plane ticket to Rome. Bailey Han thought carefully. When Xiao Bao and Xiao Yi went to Rome last time, the tourist visas they applied for had not expired yet. This kid must have taken the visas and ran to Rome. He hurriedly made a call and told Beitang Shen about this matter. He asked him to contact Xiao Bao no matter what and stabilize Xiao Bao. After knowing Xiao Bao's specific whereabouts, everyone's anxious hearts finally relaxed a little. The old madam had suffered a lot today and was not in good spirits. The servants helped her back to her room to rest. Everyone else also left. Bailey Han came out of the bathroom and saw Xia Dong leaning against the headboard in a daze. He lifted the blanket and leaned against her side. He reached out and pulled her into his arms. "Honey, don't worry. Mika Keto and Godfather already know that Xiao Bao went to Rome. They will take good care of him." Xia Dong leaned against his chest and whispered, "Xiao Bao must be very sad. Xiao Bao must be very sad to suddenly find out that he was a child abandoned by his parents. It must be very difficult for him to accept, so he chose to escape." Bailey Han hugged her tightly and kissed her hair. "Xiao Bao is very strong. He will definitely pull through." She hugged his waist tightly. "Hubby, did I do something wrong? If I had told him earlier, maybe he wouldn't be so sad." "Earlier? When do you mean?" "When we just returned to the country and before we met you. Now that we've finally reunited as a family, and he has a mommy and a daddy, we're suddenly telling him that we're not his biological parents." "Silly girl, don't blame yourself. This is not your fault. Whether you told him earlier or later, he would have been hurt the same." He hugged her tightly. His voice was low and his eyes were gloomy. "It's not your fault. It's those irresponsible people who abandoned their children. If they did not want to raise the child, why did they have to suffer after giving birth? When the child found happiness, these irresponsible parents jumped out to disturb the child's peaceful life. How despicable." Although they had not met, Bailey Han's heart was already filled with dissatisfaction and anger towards Suzuki's. Speak of the devil. Just as Bailey Han calmed Xia Dong down, Xia Dong's phone rang. It was a text from Suzuki Chisakura. "Let's meet at the Sunshine Cafe tomorrow at 10 a.m. Bailey Han stroked Xia Dong's hair. "Do you need me to accompany you?" Xia Dong shook her head. "I want to meet her alone." "Okay, call me immediately if anything happens. I'll ask Ahu to follow you, just in case. He was worried about that mysterious woman. Xia Dong smiled. You're exaggerating. Ask Ahu to follow you. Otherwise, I'll be worried. He looked serious and did not seem to be joking at all. She could only nod in agreement. Xia Dong woke up at 6 in the morning. She calculated the time and realized that Xiao Bao's plane should have arrived in Rome. She reached out for the phone on the bedside table and waited for Mika Kito's call. Suddenly, a large hand reached in front of her and pulled the blanket up to cover her. She turned around and saw Bailey Han's smiling eyes. She nuzzled in his arms. Hubby, you're awake too. He let out a low mm and hugged her tightly. After more than 10 minutes, Mika Kito finally called. Xia, don't worry. Xiao Bao is fine. He's with me now. Okay, Brother Shen. I'll leave Xiao Bao to you. Do you want to talk to him? Xia Dong bit her lip. I don't think so. He probably doesn't want to talk to us yet. Tell him that we all love him very much and we'll wait for him to come home. Okay. After ending the call, Xia Dong let out a long sigh. It's still early. Sleep a little longer. Bailey Han pulled her into his arms and rubbed his chin against her hair. During breakfast, Bailey Han told his family about Xiao Bao's current situation. Everyone was relieved. At the Sunshine Cafe. The weather was very good today. The sun shone through the window and sprinkled on Xia Dong, who was sitting by the window. She looked calm as she gently stirred the coffee in her hand and waited for the person she was supposed to meet. Ahu was sitting at the table behind her with a newspaper in his hand. He seemed to be reading it seriously, but in reality, all his attention was on Xia Dong. The crisp sound of high heels could be heard. Xia Dong looked up and saw a woman in a red trench coat walking over leisurely. Her wavy hair was draped over her shoulders and she wore a pair of sunglasses. Her legs were long and slender, and she wore a pair of high-heeled shoes. Xia Dong had a feeling that this was Suzuki Sensakura. Sure enough, the woman walked over to Xia Dong and calmly sat across from her. She took off her sunglasses and revealed her beautiful face. She extended her right hand and smiled. Hello, I'm Suzuki Sensakura. Xia Dong glanced at her right hand. Her beautiful nails were dyed red. She politely shook her hand. Hello. Mrs. Bailey, I'll get straight to the point. I want my son back. Suzuki Chisakura raised her beautiful eyes slightly and said with a faint smile, Mrs. Bailey, I'll get to the point. Xia Dong said calmly, Miss Suzuki, I adopted Xiao Bao according to legal procedures. He and I are already adoptive. Your relationship with Xiao Bao no longer exists in the eyes of the law. I can completely ignore your unreasonable request. These days, Xia Dong had flipped through many relevant legal books and had even consulted lawyers. Suzuki Sensakura's expression changed slightly. Her smile was a little stiff. Are you saying that you're not willing to return Xiao Bao to me? Xia Dong took a sip of coffee. If you're really doing this for Xiao Bao's sake, you shouldn't have made such a request. Xiao Bao is living very happily in our home. I think that he's not willing to go back with you. You're not Xiao Bao. How do you know what he's thinking? I'm his biological mother. Blood is thicker than water. I believe that he'll definitely choose to be with me. Xia Dong's lips curved into a cold smile. Blood is thicker than water. If that's the case, why did you abandon him back then? Do you know how much damage this will cause to him? Suzuki Sensakura's fingers tightened around the coffee cup. Her knuckles turned white. You don't understand what kind of discrimination a single mother will face. My parents even cut ties with me. At that time, I had no choice but to send him to the orphanage. Xia Dong's eyes moved slightly. After a moment of silence, she said, I can understand the pain of having a child out of wedlock because I was born out of wedlock myself. However, I've never thought of abandoning my children. I'm telling you this not to blame you or anything. I just want to tell you that I love my children. For their sake, I don't mind being mocked. I think that Xiao Bao being with me is the best choice for him. If you really love him, you should think about him. Suzuki Sensakura didn't look surprised. Before she decided to take back the children, she had done a lot of research on Xia Dong and the Bailey family. Of course, she also knew that she had a child out of wedlock. She said calmly, as far as I know, the Bailey family has a rule that only the eldest son can inherit the family business. In the future, the Bailey Group and the Xinghao Group will belong to Bailey E. Xiao Bao won't get anything. As for me, I'm already financially capable and I only have one child. If Xiao Bao marries me, he'll be able to inherit a large amount of money in the future. Xia Dong looked at her steadily. Other than money, what else can you give him? Suzuki Sensakura smiled. I love him. Xia Dong smiled. In that case, we'll let Xiao Bao choose for himself. Suzuki Sensakura raised her eyebrows. Okay, but I want to meet Xiao Bao. You've already cultivated a relationship with him. I also need time to cultivate a relationship with him. This is only fair. This depends on Xiao Bao. If he wants to meet you, I won't stop him. If you don't mind, I'd like to visit the Bailey family today and meet Xiao Bao. Xia Dong pursed her lips. I can't do it today. Xiao Bao went abroad to visit his family. Suzuki Sensakura's eyes were filled with suspicion. He was at home for the past 2 days. Why did he suddenly go abroad? Are you trying to play some tricks? We can escape for a while, but can we escape for a lifetime? This matter can't be solved by running away. Xiao Bao is only going abroad for a short time. He'll be back soon. Okay, I'll believe you for the time being. After Xia Dong returned home, she repeated her conversation with Suzuki Sensakura to old Madame Gu and the others. Old Madame Gu was quite indignant. Since we've already established a legal relationship with Xiao Bao, Suzuki Sensakura and Xiao Bao are no longer legally related, why did we agree to let her see Xiao Bao? I say, it's better to keep her out. Bai Jinxiu comforted her. Mom, don't say such things out of anger. I think Xia's approach is more appropriate. We can settle this through negotiation. This way, Xiao Bao won't be hurt. Xiao Bao is a very smart child. He will make a wise choice. If he really wants to reunite with his biological parents, we'll only make him hate us if we stop him, won't we? Old Madame Gu sighed. I know, but Xiao Bao has run away from home. Does that mean he doesn't want to stay in this family anymore? I just can't bear to part with him. Xia Dong's gaze was firm. No, he won't. I believe in Xiao Bao. Grandma, Mom. Let's just give him some time. He'll come around. She had lived with Xiao Bao for 5 years and knew him better than anyone else. He had run away from home because he couldn't accept his background, not because he hated the Bailey family. Beauty novel, Xinwu 799. Chapter 322. Rome. The sun was setting in the west, and the willow branches swayed gently. The golden sunlight spread over the lake. Occasionally, the wind would blow, and the lake would ripple with broken golden light. Xiao Bao sat quietly on the grass by the lake. His small figure was dyed with a layer of golden light by the setting sun. There was a fishing rod by his feet, and the long fishing line was hanging in the lake. For a long time, there was no movement. Mika Keto was wearing casual clothes. She put her hands in her trouser pockets and walked slowly behind him. She said calmly, fishing with a straight hook. Are you planning to learn from Zhang Zia? Xiao Bao's little face was cold, and his eyes were cold. He said angrily, I don't want you to care. Mika Keto sat down beside him and looked down at him. Are you angry with me now? Xiao Bao turned his head away. I didn't expect you to lie to me with Mom. Mika Keto turned his little head back. We didn't lie to you. We just hid some things from you. Xiao Bao, we hid it from you because we didn't want you to get hurt. Xiao Bao's pink face puffed up, and tears welled up in his eyes. If that woman didn't appear, were you planning to hide it from me forever? Yes. Mika Keto rubbed his hair. Because we never treated you as an outsider. You are Xia and Bailey Han's son. Tears rolled down his face. He buried his head in his knees and sobbed. Why did they abandon me? Mika Keto knew that Xiao Bao was referring to his biological parents. Mika Keto retracted her hand and had a manly conversation with him. Xiao Bao, they must have their reasons for abandoning you. If you want to know the reason, talk to them face to face. Xiao Bao buried his head between his legs. After a long silence, he said in a muffled voice, I'm going back to a city tomorrow. Okay, I just finished my business. I'll go back with you. Can I still call you Uncle Shen in the future? Mika Keto couldn't help but laugh. She rubbed his hair with her wide palm. Don't you dare. Uncle Shen. He looked up and grinned. There were still traces of tears on his face. Okay. Mika Keto responded and smiled. Let's go. It's almost dinner time. Don't let your grandfather worry. Okay. Xiao Bao stood up and patted the grass on his little butt. His little mouth opened, revealing 2 cute dimples. Uncle Shen, I want to ride a big horse. How old are you? Why are you still riding a horse? Beitang Shen squatted down, stretched out his hands, and placed them on both sides of his head. Come on up. Xiao Bao sat on his shoulder. He held Xiao Bao's legs firmly with both hands and said softly, sit tight. Don't fall. Got it. As Mika Keto slowly stood up, Xiao Bao felt that he was very, very tall. His vision had also become wider, and his mood had also become brighter. He laughed loudly. Uncle Shen, run, kid, sit tight. Mika Keto's lips curled up. She held onto his legs and started running on the grass. Ah, Xiao Bao shouted loudly. His voice echoed throughout the valley. 2 days later, at the Bailey mansion. The old lady sat expressionlessly at the head of the table. Xia Dong sat beside her, and across from them sat Suzuki Qian Sakura. She was elegantly holding a teacup and gently sipping from it. She put down her teacup and smiled. Madam, Mrs. Bailey, I'm here today to thank you for taking care of Xiao Bao, and also to see Xiao Bao. Miss Suzuki, before you see Xiao Bao, we have to reach an agreement. We'll give Xiao Bao the freedom to choose. Once he makes a choice, the other party can't force Xiao Bao to change his mind. What do you think? Suzuki Qian Sakura laughed softly. Madam, I can't agree to this condition. I'm Xiao Bao's biological mother. I have the right to take him away. If I encounter any obstacles, I'll ask for legal aid. Xia Dong's pupils constricted. She didn't expect this woman to be so cunning. She actually changed her mind. She had a feeling that this matter wouldn't be easily resolved. The old lady's expression changed. Back then, we agreed to let you meet Xiao Bao because you agreed to let him choose. Since you've changed your mind, we won't abide by the agreement. Miss Suzuki, please leave. Suzuki Qian Sakura smiled faintly. She didn't seem to take it to heart. She stood up from her seat. Then I won't disturb you. The old lady's face darkened. Butler, see the guest out. Miss Suzuki, this way please. Suzuki Qian Sakura and the butler had already reached the entrance when hurried footsteps could be heard coming from upstairs. Soon, they were downstairs. Xiao Bao's small figure appeared at the top of the stairs. He shouted, wait a minute. Xiao Bao, why are you down here? Xia Dong hurriedly got up and walked towards him. Suzuki Qian Sakura slowly turned around and looked at the child standing at the top of the stairs. He was handsome and his fists were tightly clenched. Although he tried to maintain a calm expression, she could see the uneasiness in his eyes. She pursed her lips and smiled. Xiao Bao, you already know who I am, don't you? Xiao Bao's chest rose and fell rapidly. He gritted his teeth. I want to talk to you. Suzuki Qian Sakura looked at the old lady, whose face was ashen, and then at Xia Dong, who was in a daze. Finally, she nodded. Okay. Xiao Bao turned his head away and looked at the old lady and Xia Dong. Great-grandma, mommy, I want to talk to her. They had no choice but to nod. Xiao Bao said coldly, come with me. He walked up the stairs with his short legs. Suzuki Qian Sakura pursed her lips and followed behind him. The two of them entered Xiao Bao's room. Suzuki Qian Sakura looked at his room carefully. It was decorated in a very mature style and didn't look like a child's room at all. She looked at Xiao Bao. He was only 5 years old, but he was like an adult. He was calm and rational. She almost couldn't believe that this was her child. The mother and son sat facing each other, and the atmosphere was very tense. Suzuki Qian Sakura coughed to break the tense atmosphere. Xiao Bao, mommy wants you to come back to Japan with me. Xiao Bao stared at her coldly. Who is my father? Suzuki Qian Sakura was stunned. She smiled faintly. You'll see him soon. He didn't want to dwell on this question anymore. He clenched his fists tightly and his eyes were burning with anger. Why did you abandon me? She looked bitter. I got pregnant out of wedlock. My parents felt that it was an insult to their family and chased me out. I had nothing and couldn't support you, so you abandoned me. What about that man? Why didn't he take responsibility? Xiao Bao gritted his teeth. She shook her head. He didn't know about your existence. Xiao Bao, I know I've let you down, so let me make it up to you, okay? Come back to Japan with me. I'll love you well. She reached out and wanted to hug him. He pushed her away angrily. If you really loved me, you wouldn't have abandoned me. I was really at my wit's end at that time. Xiao Bao looked at her viciously. You were at your wit's end? Aren't you still alive now? You just wanted to get rid of a burden like me. Now that you have money, you feel guilty. Or perhaps you suddenly realize that I'm useful, so you want to get me back, right? Suzuki Qian Sakura's eyes widened. How can you say that about me? I'm your mother. He clenched his fists angrily and said angrily, why can't I? You haven't done your duty as a mother for even a day. Xiao Bao, I'm sorry. Tears welled up in her eyes. She threw herself at him and hugged him tightly. Xiao Bao, I really have my reasons. Forgive me, Xiao Bao's eyes were also filled with tears. He hit her back hard and shouted, when I learned to walk, it was my mother who helped me. When I learned to speak, it was my mother who taught me. When I was sick, it was my mother who took care of me. Where were you? You don't deserve to be my mother. Go away, I don't want you to care about me. I'm sorry. Suzuki Qian Sakura hugged him tightly and sobbed. Xiao Bao, believe me, I'll love you well in the future. I'll make it up to you and give you everything, I won't believe you. Let go of me. Xiao Bao was very emotional. He punched and kicked Suzuki Qian Sakura. Suzuki Qian Sakura had no choice but to let him go. Her face was full of tears. Xiao Bao turned around and said in a sobbing voice, I don't want to see you now. Go away. She couldn't stop crying. Xiao Bao, he shouted hysterically, go away. Suzuki Qian Sakura hesitated for a moment and finally left in silence. The door closed. Xiao Bao threw himself on the bed and buried himself in the blankets, crying loudly. After Suzuki Qian Sakura left the room, she stood in the corridor for a long time to control her emotions. She then fixed her appearance in the makeup box before going downstairs. Old Madame Xing had already returned to her room to rest. Xia Dong was the only one in the living room. Suzuki Qian Sakura forced a smile. Xiao Bao is a little emotional. I'll go back first. Xia Dong nodded slightly and walked her to the door. Suzuki Qian Sakura came out of the villa and walked to the parking lot. A red Ferrari approached from afar. She stood still and waited for the Ferrari to stop. Bailey Yun saw Suzuki Qian Sakura standing in front of her car from afar. He frowned but quickly relaxed. He got out of the car and walked towards her with a cold expression. Why are you here? Suzuki Qian Sakura didn't answer him. Instead, she turned around and glanced in the direction of Xiao Bao's room on the second floor. She said calmly, Ah Yun, do you want to know our son's name? Bailey Yun's expression changed and his voice was cold. What evidence do you have to prove that the child is mine? She turned around and looked at him. If you don't believe me, you can do a paternity test with our son. His thin lips were pursed and his gaze was terrifying. She walked closer to him and whispered in his ear, Ah Yun, our son's name is Xiao Bao. Awesome novel, Songshu 566. Chapter 323. Bailey Yun's eyes were filled with anger, and his voice was bone-chillingly cold. Say that again. There was a look of vengeance on her face. I said, our son's name is Xiao Bao, and he's calling you second uncle now. Slap. Bailey Yun raised his hand and slapped her beautiful face. He pointed at her nose and said sternly, I'm warning you, don't talk nonsense. Xiao Bao is my eldest brother's son. Ha ha ha. Suzuki Qian Sakura laughed hysterically, and tears fell from her eyes. Your whole family already knows that Xiao Bao isn't Xia Dong's biological son, but you're still in the dark? Do you know why I'm here today? I'm here to reunite with Xiao Bao. Bailey Yun felt as if he had been struck by lightning, and his heart was about to stop beating. His fingers were trembling, and the blood in his body seemed to have frozen. He suddenly abandoned Suzuki Qian Sakura and rushed towards the villa. His entire body was emitting a malicious and cold aura, and he barged into the living room like a hurricane. Xia Dong was startled to see him suddenly appear, and said, Ah Yun, you're back. His face was ashen, and his eyes were fixed on her. Let me ask you, is Xiao Bao your biological son? Xia Dong suddenly remembered that Bailey Yun did not know about Xiao Bao's background, and pursed her lips. Xiao Bao is a child I adopted. Bailey Yun's expression became more and more unsightly. Who is his biological mother? Suzuki Qian Sakura. His body suddenly froze. It's her, it's really her. No, it's impossible, I don't believe it. He turned and ran upstairs, his footsteps messy and hurried, as if there was a ferocious beast chasing after him. Xia Dong took a few steps forward and asked worriedly, Ah Yun, what's wrong? What responded to her was the sound of his increasingly hurried footsteps. Bailey Yun rushed to Xiao Bao's room and knocked on the door. Xiao Bao, open the door. Xiao Bao was crying in his blanket. He did not want to see anyone at all. When he heard him knocking on the door, he curled up into a ball and covered his ears tightly. Xiao Bao, hurry up and open the door. Bailey Yun anxiously kicked the door. Xiao Bao ignored him and continued to cry under the blanket. Bailey Yun was angry and anxious. He shouted for the housekeeper, took the spare key, and opened the door. He immediately saw Xiao Bao curled up into a ball on the bed. He quickly stepped forward and pulled the blanket off her body. With both hands, he scooped Xiao Bao up from the bed. What are you doing? Let me go. Xiao Bao was in a bad mood. He was suddenly pulled out of the quilt and was so angry that he punched and kicked him. Behave yourself. Bailey Yun carried him on his shoulder and slapped his little butt twice. He ran downstairs as fast as he could. Where are you taking me? Hurry up and let me go. In the blink of an eye, Bailey Yun ran downstairs with Xiao Bao on his shoulder. Bailey Yun did not say a word and only focused on running forward. Xia Dong heard the commotion and quickly ran forward to stop him. Ah Yun, what are you doing? It's none of your business. I'm taking Xiao Bao somewhere. Bailey Yun said coldly. He held the punching and kicking Xiao Bao tightly and walked straight out of the villa. Mom, save me. I don't want to go with him. Xiao Bao shouted as he pounded Bailey Yun's shoulder. He was very fast. Xia Dong could only trot to catch up. Ah Yun, let's sit down and talk. Don't scare the child. Bailey Yun suddenly stopped and stared coldly at Xiao Bao. Xiao Bao, do you want to know who your biological father is? Xiao Bao was stunned. He said again, if you want to, then come with me. After saying this, he continued to walk forward. Xiao Bao did not struggle anymore. Xia Dong wanted to chase after him, but Xiao Bao said, Mom, it's okay. I'll go with second uncle. She could only stop and watch as Bailey Yun threw Xiao Bao into the Ferrari. Bailey Yun took Xiao Bao to a paternity test hospital. He carried Xiao Bao and barged into an office. He said to the doctor, who looked surprised, we want to do a paternity test. Xiao Bao turned his head and stared at Bailey Yun. His little face was filled with astonishment. Bailey Yun pursed his thin lips and looked very upset. The doctor quickly said, do you have an appointment? Bailey Yun said sternly, cut the crap. I want to do it now. He exuded a cold aura. His eyes were red and fierce. The doctor had an illusion that he was like a ferocious beast that could pounce on him and tear him apart at any time. He wiped the cold sweat off his forehead and smiled. Okay, please leave a sample. Blood, hair, oral mucosa. Choose one. Bailey Yun pulled out a few strands of hair from his head and put them in the small bag in the nurse's hand. He lowered his head and stared at Xiao Bao with his dark eyes. He said in a deep voice, pull out a few strands of your hair. Xiao Bao was already confused by his own guess. Without any words, he pulled out a few strands of his hair and put them in another small bag. The doctor said, Sir, please register now. We will come out with the test results in a week. Bailey Yun put Xiao Bao down on the ground. He filled in the form and asked, I will only give you 2 days. I want the results in 2 days. This is impossible. Bailey Yun slammed the pen on the table. 100,000. Give me the results in 2 days. If you can't do it, I will change to another hospital immediately. The doctor picked up the registration form and saw the 3 words, Bailey Yun, written on it. He suddenly thought of the biggest Bailey family in a city. His heart thumped, and he quickly squeezed out a smile. Yes, yes. We will come out with the test results as soon as possible. Bailey Yun stared at him coldly. This matter must be kept secret. If you dare to leak a word, your appraisal institution will be closed down. Understood, understood. We will keep it secret. The doctor was more and more certain that the other party was from the Bailey family. Otherwise, who would have such a big tone? Coming out of the office, Bailey Yun walked in front. Xiao Bao lowered his head and walked behind him. The two of them, one big and one small, did not speak. After Bai Lian walked out of the appraisal center, he stood by the roadside and waited for 2 to 3 minutes, but he didn't hear Xiao Bao's footsteps. He suddenly turned around and saw Xiao Bao standing 10 meters away from him with his head lowered. Although he couldn't see the expression on Xiao Bao's face, he could feel the deep sorrow in Xiao Bao's actions. Bailey Yun's heart ached. He pursed his lips and raised his voice. How long are you going to dawdle there? Xiao Bao ignored him. He simply squatted down and hugged his knees tightly with his arms. It was an action of self-protection after being abandoned. Bailey Yun quickly walked to his side and stared at him condescendingly. He tried his best to soften his voice. Xiao Bao, get up. Let's go home. Xiao Bao's tears fell and hit the concrete floor. They quickly gathered into a small pool of water. He sobbed and said, That's not my home. What nonsense are you talking about? Bailey Yun suddenly pulled him up from the ground and hugged him. That will always be your home. He burst into tears. He cried until he was hoarse and heartbroken. Bailey Yun had never coaxed a child. Although he had been with Xiao Yi for a long time, Xiao Yi had never cried before. Thus, when faced with the sad and crying Xiao Bao, he was a little helpless and did not know how to comfort him. He could only pat his back and whisper, "Don't cry." He cried even louder, as if he wanted to pour out all his grievances with tears. Bailey Yun did not feel good either. If the test results showed that Xiao Bao was really his child, he did not know how to face him. "Don't cry." Bailey Yun gently patted his back. After a while, Xiao Bao finally stopped crying. Bailey Yun wiped away the tears on his face, patted his head, and whispered, "Do you want to go to the amusement park?" Xiao Bao nodded silently. "Okay, let's go to the amusement park." Bailey Yun put him in the Ferrari. There were many people in the amusement park. They were all parents playing with their children. Bailey Yun was worried that he would be separated from Xiao Bao, so he simply carried him. The two of them shuttled through the crowd for a long time before lining up to get on the roller coaster. The two of them sat in the same carriage. After the roller coaster started, it rushed out of the tunnel at an extremely fast speed. They climbed and rolled on the steel tube track, and all the blood in his body surged. Xiao Bao was initially dispirited, but in the end, stimulated by the strong sense of weightlessness, he screamed with the people around him. The two of them got off the roller coaster and saw the sorry state of the people around them. They laughed loudly. Bailey Yun rubbed Xiao Bao's messy hair. He pointed to a man bent over and vomited next to him and said, "Fortunately, you didn't end up like him." Xiao Bao raised his chin arrogantly. "I went on the roller coaster when I was 4 years old. Do you think I'm that useless?" Bailey Yun laughed. "Who was screaming so loudly just now?" Xiao Bao snorted twice. "You were screaming louder than me just now." Bailey Yun was deliberately trying to make him happy. After being choked by him, he was not displeased. He patted his little head and said, "What else do you want to do?" "Bungee jumping." Bailey Yun's mouth twitched. "Little brat, you haven't even grown your teeth yet. What bungee jumping? Change it." Xiao Bao bared his teeth and glared at him. "You're discriminating against my age." Bailey Yun also glared at him. "Your bones haven't fully developed yet. Bungee jumping can easily cause your bones to fall off. Be a good boy and change it." Xiao Bao's beautiful eyes darted around. Suddenly, there was a flash of light. "Then let's go to the horror town." Bailey Yun's face darkened. "What's there to see in the horror town?" "Change it. I heard that ghosts can jump out of the horror town to scare people. It's so fun. Some of my classmates have been here before. Let's go in and take a look." Xiao Bao blinked his big eyes and acted cute. Hearing this, Bailey Yun could not agree to it. No, such a young child. What if he gets scared by the horror town? Xiao Bao stared at him for a while and suddenly laughed. "Second uncle, are you scared?" "Scared? What a joke. Why would I be scared?" Bailey Yun patted his chest righteously. "Your second uncle has the most guts. Then let's go to the horror town. If you don't agree, it means that you're a coward." Xiao Bao looked at him proudly with an "I've seen through you" expression. Bailey Yun gritted his teeth and rubbed his cheeks. "Okay, let's go. I'm not scared of you." He held Xiao Bao's hand and walked forward. Xiao Bao covered his mouth and laughed secretly. So second uncle was afraid of ghosts. Ha ha ha. The horror town was not just for show. It was so scary. The ghosts and monsters here weren't rigid stone sculptures, they could move. In the dark room, the sound effects of horror movies were playing. From time to time, white ghosts would float above or behind them. There were also ghosts with long hair combing their long hair in front of a mirror. The mirror reflected a bloody face. Bailey Yun was about to vomit. He held Xiao Bao's hand tighter and tighter. Cold sweat broke out on his back. He quickened his pace, intending to get out of here as soon as possible. Suddenly, an arm patted him heavily on the shoulder. His body trembled. He did not dare to look back and said with a trembling voice, "Xiao Bao, look. What's behind me?" There was no response. "Xiao Bao?" Bailey Yun's heart tightened. He could not care about anything else. He quickly turned around and lowered his head. Xiao Bao was standing in front of him. Chapter 324. Li Duobao and Xiao Bao looked at each other. Both of them stuck out their tongues at the same time and made an expression that said, "We're in trouble." Li Duobao's round apple face scrunched up and she said pitifully, "Bailey Yun, don't be angry. It's my fault. I shouldn't have teamed up with Xiao Bao to scare you." It turned out that Li Duobao had recognized Bailey Yun when she was playing in the City of Horrors. She wanted to prank him and tease him, so she signaled Xiao Bao not to expose her. Then, she purposely patted Bailey Yun's shoulder and hid behind a stone statue. Hence, when Bailey Yun turned around, he didn't see anything. Bailey Yun poked his lemon hard and ignored her. Li Duobao pouted and turned to look at Xiao Bao. She winked and said, "What should I do? He's ignoring me." Xiao Bao shrugged and sighed silently. "I sympathize with you, but I don't know what to do either." Li Duobao bit her lip awkwardly. A few seconds later, she smiled happily and said, "Bailey Yun, what else do you want to play? Let's play together." Xiao Bao was drinking a drink and almost choked by her jumping nerves. Bailey Yun looked up and glanced at her coldly. His tone was extremely displeased. "I'm still angry." "Oh, I'm sorry." "Don't be angry. A man has to be magnanimous." Li Duobao put her hands together and smiled ingratiatingly. "How about this? Let's have lunch together. I'll treat you as an apology, okay?" Bailey Yun glared at her. "You still want to eat hot pot?" She quickly waved her hands. "No hot pot, no hot pot. You can eat whatever you want," he said coldly, looking down on her. "Really? Aren't you afraid that we'll be greedy and make you go bankrupt? It's just a meal. We won't go bankrupt." Li Duobao laughed foolishly. Xiao Bao could not help but facepalm. He had a premonition that a little white rabbit had jumped into a trap. Sure enough, Bailey Yun suddenly grinned. He put down the straw in his hand and nodded contentedly. "Well, you treat us at noon. The location is Century Brocade." Century Brocade was the best hotel in a city. The dishes there were ridiculously expensive. Li Duobao almost fell on the table and looked at Bailey Yun with tears in his eyes. He looked very pitiful. Bailey Yun's lips curled into an elegant and charming smile. His voice was extremely gentle. "What's wrong?" Li Duobao was speechless. He pursed his lips and said, "It's nothing. Century Brocade it is." She really wanted to slap her own mouth right now. She would really go bankrupt from eating this meal. Because she was worried about her wallet, Li Duobao wasn't interested in the following entertainment activities. When Bailey Yun saw this, the corner of his lips curled up. This girl's emotions were written all over her face, and it was really fun to tease her. He was completely unaware that the scene of him peeking at Li Duobao had fallen into Xiao Bao's eyes. When they came out of the amusement park, it was already lunchtime. Bailey Yun drove while Li Duobao accompanied Xiao Bao in the back seat. She thought that Bailey Yun would spontaneously drive the car to Century Brocade, so she didn't pay attention to the route. Instead, she played a game with Xiao Bao. When the car stopped, she looked out of the window and said in surprise, "This doesn't seem to be Century Brocade." "Bailey Yun, you're going the wrong way." "Fool, do you really think I'm going to kill you?" Bailey Yun opened the car door for her and smiled. "Hurry up and get out of the car. The food in this private restaurant is very good." "Oh, okay." Li Duobao jumped out of the car first and reached out to carry Xiao Bao. Xiao Bao refused. "No need, I can get out by myself." Xiao Bao jumped out of the car and walked in front like a little adult with her chest puffed out and her head raised. Li Duobao looked at Xiao Bao and then at Bai Li Yun. You and your brother must look a lot alike. Bai Li Yun was surprised. Why do you say that? She giggled. Because Xiao Bao looks a lot like you. In the end, it's still because you look a lot like your brother, isn't it? Bai Li Yun's expression froze. Let's go. Xiao Bao has already gone in. In the private room, Bai Li Yun and the other two had just finished ordering when Xia Dong called. She sounded a little worried. Yun, are you guys okay? We're fine. I took Xiao Bao to the amusement park. We're at the restaurant now and we're planning to eat. Okay, I got it. Then you guys eat. I'll hang up first. Bai Li Yun glanced at Xiao Bao. It's your mommy. Xiao Bao said, oh. Li Duobao realized that the atmosphere between them was a little strange. Her gaze shifted between the two of them and finally landed on Bai Li Yun. She smiled and said, Bai Li Yun, when are you going back to New York? Maybe we can even be on the same plane. Bai Li Yun took a sip of tea and said indifferently, the time hasn't been set yet. There's something I need to deal with. Oh, I see. There was a moment of silence and the atmosphere was a little awkward. Xiao Bao suddenly looked up at Li Duobao and an innocent and cute smile appeared on her little face. Sister, do you have a boyfriend? Li Duobao smiled embarrassedly. Not yet. Sister, you're so beautiful. There must be a lot of people pursuing you. The little guy's eyes were bright and full of gossip. Bai Li Yun suddenly put down his teacup and looked at Li Duobao, obviously waiting for her answer. That. Li Duobao rubbed her nose awkwardly. You can say that. Sometimes on the plane, I meet some passengers who give me their business cards. Sister, you're so popular. Why don't you date them? Bai Li Yun's eyes moved and his thin lips pursed. I don't think I feel anything. Li Duobao had a complicated expression on her face. She was a little distressed and a little confused. I don't know what's wrong. I just don't feel anything, oh. Xiao Bao nodded in understanding. Her bright eyes glanced at Bai Li Yun, who seemed to be deep in thought. She had already guessed something. The waiter served the dishes and the topic didn't continue. After they were full, Li Duobao called the waiter over and was about to pay the bill. However, Bai Li Yun was one step ahead of her and handed the bank card to the waiter. Li Duobao didn't want to. She took the card and was about to return it to him. Didn't we agree that I'll treat you? Stop fooling around. You can treat me next time. Bai Li Yun handed the card back to the waiter. It didn't look good pushing it back and forth. Li Duobao didn't insist and put away her card. All right then, I'll treat you next time. Xiao Bao cast a disdainful glance at Bai Li Yun. It was that simple. He had laid the foundation for the next date. A love expert was indeed a love expert. In the next second, Xiao Bao frowned because he thought of a serious problem. If his second uncle was really his father, then what was going on between him and Suzuki Qian Sakura? Should he support his biological parents being together, or should he support Bai Li Yun and Li Duobao being together? Damn it, why was he thinking so much? If Bai Li Yun was really his father, he should hate him. Why did he care so much about him? After eating, they strolled around the streets. The two adults and the child looked like a family of three. When Li Duobao saw the ice cream shop, she held Xiao Bao's hand and ran forward quickly. The two of them leaned on the glass counter and stared at the beautiful ice cream inside. Then, they turned around in unison, blinked their beautiful big eyes, and said in unison, I want to eat ice cream. Bai Li Yun didn't know whether to laugh or cry. Li Duobao, how old are you? You're still acting like a child. And you, Xiao Bao, why are you eating ice cream in the middle of winter? Be careful not to catch a cold. Li Duobao and Xiao Bao looked at each other and nodded firmly, completely ignoring Bai Li Yun. Li Duobao took out a bill from her wallet and said, 2 ice creams, 1 strawberry flavor, 1. She looked down at Xiao Bao. Xiao Bao, what flavor do you want? Xiao Bao smiled sweetly. Pineapple flavor. 1 strawberry flavor, 1 pineapple flavor, thank you. Li Duobao handed the bill to the cashier. Hey, you two, how dare you ignore me? Bailey Yun took a few steps forward and stared at the two of them with an unhappy expression. Next to them, an old lady who was buying ice cream with her grandson said with a smile, "Young man, if your wife and child want to eat ice cream, let them eat it. It's okay to eat it once in a while." Li Duobao's face turned red and she stuttered as she explained, "Auntie, I'm not, wife." Bailey Yun suddenly interrupted her. On his handsome face, there was a gentle smile. "Since you want to eat it, then eat it. Auntie is right. It's okay to eat it once in a while. That's right, girl. Your husband is so handsome, ha ha ha." The old lady laughed boldly. Li Duobao's cheeks were red. She wanted to explain, but Bailey Yun had already taken the ice cream from the cashier and put it in her mouth. "Wife, your ice cream." "Io, the two of you are so sweet." The old lady smiled like a flower. "Auntie, we'll be leaving first. I hope you're in a good mood today." Bailey Yun smiled brightly at the old lady. He dragged Li Duobao and Xiao Bao out of the ice cream shop in a hurry. "What are you doing?" Outside the ice cream shop, Li Duobao shook off Bailey Yun's hand and said angrily, "Why didn't you let me explain? Why did you let people misunderstand?" Bailey Yun raised his eyebrows. There was a mischievous smile on his lips. "Explain? Do you think it's necessary to explain so much to someone you don't know?" "Of course it's necessary. I'm an unmarried girl. I was misunderstood to be married. I also have such a big child. Shouldn't I explain?" Bailey Yun's face turned ugly. "Do you think that Xiao Bao and I have insulted your reputation? Do you discriminate against single men with children?" "Of course not. Bailey Yun, can you be more reasonable? We're not talking about the same thing, okay? I'm the one being unreasonable. I shouldn't have pestered you. Are you satisfied now?" I don't want to talk to you. You're pissing me off." Xiao Bao licked her ice cream silently. She did not intend to get involved in their boring quarrel. Awesome novel, Xinwu 799. Chapter 325. It was obvious that his second uncle had fallen in love with Li Duobao and was worried that Li Duobao would discriminate against him if he was his child. Xiao Bao felt that he was very pitiful. Li Duobao pouted angrily and left Bailey Yun and Xiao Bao behind without even greeting them. Then, he rushed forward mindlessly. Bailey Yun was also angry. He suddenly grabbed Xiao Bao's arm and walked in the opposite direction. "Let's go home." Xiao Bao looked back at Li Duobao's angry back and sighed helplessly. "Second uncle, are you really not going to chase after her?" "Chase after what? What's there to chase after?" Bailey Yun was so angry that smoke was coming out of his head. He despised Xiao Bao for walking too slowly, so he simply picked him up and walked forward quickly. Xiao Bao felt even more helpless and dragged out his voice. "Second uncle, you're going in the wrong direction. Your car is parked over there." He stretched out his finger and pointed in the direction that Li Duobao had run off in. Bailey Yun suddenly stopped in his tracks and turned around stiffly. He said stubbornly, "I know. I just wanted to test your sense of direction." Xiao Bao curled his lips in disdain. Tisk, Bailey Yun stuffed Xiao Bao into the front passenger seat and stepped on the accelerator. After driving for a short distance, he saw Li Duobao walking alone on the street. She was wearing a white coat and a white woolen hat. She looked like a snowball. He couldn't help but slow down. Xiao Bao looked back at the snowball that was getting farther and farther away. He said maturely, "Second uncle, are you sure you don't want to stop?" Bailey Yun snorted. "This is an adult's business. Don't bother a kid like you." Xiao Bao curled his lips. You know that you're an adult too? You're even more childish than a kid like me. You were clearly in the wrong just now. Bailey Yun paused. Was it really my fault? Xiao Bao rolled her eyes. It's your fault. There's no need to doubt it. Bailey Yun's lips tightened. He suddenly sped up and the car rushed out. Seeing that he had reached the next intersection, he suddenly turned the steering wheel, turned the car around, and drove back. In less than 5 minutes, the Ferrari stopped in front of Li Duobao. Li Duobao heard the sharp sound of brakes and subconsciously looked back. He didn't expect Bailey Yun to jump out of the car. She bit her lip and pretended not to see him. She turned around and continued to walk forward. Bailey Yun ran behind her and grabbed her arm. What are you doing? She turned around and glared at him. Bailey Yun frowned. Stop messing around. Get in the car. She snorted. Didn't you say you wouldn't pester me anymore? Why do you care so much about me? He suddenly tightened his grip on her arm and said calmly, It's not easy to get a taxi here. As a gentleman, I won't leave a lady halfway. Li Duobao said angrily, This is China. You don't need to follow those gentlemanly principles, so you don't have to care about me. Let go. You, Bailey Yun frowned and was about to reprimand her again. However, when he saw that she lowered her head and half of her fair neck was exposed, the anger in his heart miraculously dissipated. He tried his best to soften his tone. Stop messing around. It's cold outside. Get in the car. She didn't know why, but when she heard his gentle voice coaxing her, she felt a strange feeling in her heart. She looked up and suddenly met his deep gaze. His lips curved and he said gently, It was my fault just now. Don't be angry anymore. Her heart suddenly skipped a beat. He suddenly held her hand and led her to the car. She forgot to struggle and followed his footsteps. Her eyes stared at their intertwined hands and her heart was a little flustered, but also a little sweet. The car door suddenly opened and Xiao Bao jumped down from the front passenger seat. He chuckled and said, Sister, you sit in front. I'll sit in the back. He wiggled his little butt and climbed into the back seat. Li Duobao glanced at Bailey Yun and pursed her lips. She pushed his hand away and bent down to get into the back seat as well. She sat beside Xiao Bao. Xiao Bao had a habit of taking an afternoon nap. Not long after the car started, he felt sleepy and dozed off in his seat. Li Duobao saw that he was sleeping so hard and carried him into her arms. Not only did the little guy not wake up, he even adjusted his sleeping position and slept soundly in her arms. Li Duobao lowered her head and looked at the little head that was pressed against her chest. Her cheeks quietly blushed. Bailey Yun saw the situation in the back seat from the rearview mirror and suddenly felt a little jealous of Xiao Bao. Li Duobao looked up and happened to see Bailey Yun's burning gaze through the rearview mirror. She blushed even more and coughed uncomfortably. She wanted to say something to break the awkwardness. You seem to be very afraid of ghosts. Forget it. Pretend I didn't ask. She frowned in annoyance. She was so stupid. Why did she bring it up? Her expression pleased Bailey Yun. His eyes were filled with a smile and the corners of his lips curled up. I've been very afraid of ghosts since I was young. Li Duobao didn't expect him to answer. She blinked and asked, Why? Ghosts are all fake. The smile in Bailey Yun's eyes faded. It's a long story. Since you've seen the gossip reports about me, you should know that I'm the illegitimate son of the Bailey family. Li Duobao grunted and quickly said, If it's not convenient for you to say, then forget it. He looked ahead and said in a calm voice, When I was 5 years old, I was brought back to the Bailey family. I slept alone in a very big room. It was cold and gloomy. I missed my mother, but I didn't dare to cry because I would be hated by my family. Li Duobao looked at his handsome face through the rearview mirror. His expression was indifferent as if he was talking about someone else's story. She felt a little sour in her heart. He pursed his thin lips and continued, One night, it was raining heavily. There was no one at home. They had all gone to attend old Master Bai's birthday party. I was hiding under the blanket alone. Suddenly, I saw a scary face appear by the window. Lightning flashed and I saw that the face was covered in blood. A pair of black eyes were staring at me. Li Duobao was shocked. What happened next? Bailey Yun gripped the steering wheel tightly and his voice changed. Later, I heard that someone had invaded that night and wanted to steal something valuable. In the end, he accidentally fell and injured his head, so his face was covered in blood. He didn't give up and climbed up to the second floor, which was outside my window. In the end, I found him. She asked nervously, "What about you? How are you?" He was stunned. After a long time, his voice returned to normal. I was so scared that I screamed and then fainted. After that, I became afraid of things like ghosts. Li Duobao bit her lip and felt a little uncomfortable. A 5 or 6-year-old child was at the age where he was full of fantasies. It was inevitable that he would let his imagination run wild when he lived alone in an empty house. Coupled with his family's neglect of him, his young heart was even more sensitive. When he saw a face covered in blood, he mistook it for a ghost and was left with a psychological shadow. She said impulsively, "I'm not afraid of ghosts. If you're scared in the future, you can look for me." His eyes were filled with warmth and his lips curved. "What if I'm so scared that I can't sleep in the middle of the night?" She said without hesitation, "Call me. I'll tell you a joke." He chuckled. "You said it. Don't forget your promise." She nodded. "I never go back on my words." He looked at her eyes from the rearview mirror. Her round eyes were filled with determination and his heart couldn't help but feel warm. Almost instinctively, he asked in a low voice, "Li Duobao, will you accept a single man with a child?" Li Duobao was stunned. "Are you referring to a divorced man with a child?" He pursed his thin lips and his eyes flickered. "I'm not married, but I have a child." "Heir." She smiled and touched her nose. "I've never thought about this." The light in his eyes gradually dimmed. She found it strange. "Why are you suddenly asking this?" His thin lips pursed. "Nothing. I'm just asking." "Oh." The two of them didn't speak for the rest of the journey. The car stopped below Li Duobao's building. She looked down at Xiao Bao, who was sleeping soundly in her arms. She couldn't bear to wake him up. She looked up at Bailey Yun and said in a low voice, "Why don't I sit for a while longer?" Bailey Yun replied, "Okay. Sorry to trouble you." The two of them sat in the car in silence. Xiao Bao slept soundly. After about 10 minutes, he rubbed his sleepy eyes and got up from Li Duobao's arms. "You're finally awake." Li Duobao smiled and ruffled his hair. Xiao Bao looked out of the window, stretched and asked, "Sister, are you here?" "Yeah. Do you want to go upstairs and have a seat?" "Okay." Xiao Bao jumped down from her arms. "Another day, Xiao Bao. Don't you have something to do?" Bailey Yun stared at Xiao Bao with a burning gaze. Xiao Bao blinked. "Oh, right. I forgot. Sister, we still have something to do. We have to go back first. We'll go to your house to play next time when we have time." "Okay." Li Duobao liked Xiao Bao very much. She rubbed his pink cheeks. "Goodbye. Goodbye, sister." Xiao Bao smiled and waved. "Second uncle, why didn't you seize such a good opportunity?" After Li Duobao's figure disappeared, Xiao Bao jumped to the front passenger seat and poked Bailey Yun's arm. Bailey Yun snorted on his head. "What does a child know?" "I know. You're worried that if I were your son, she would despise you, right?" Xiao Bao slapped his hand away and rolled his eyes at him. "Aren't you a self-proclaimed Casanova? When did you lose so much confidence?" Bailey Yun was stunned and smiled bitterly. "You seem to have accepted the current situation." Xiao Bao sighed maturely. "I've cried and made a fuss. My life has already been decided. What else can I do? Anyway, I've already thought it through. Bailey Yun stared into his eyes. I didn't expect you to be so open-minded at such a young age. Xiao Bao looked at him as if he was an idiot. What else can I do? Be sad for the rest of my life? I'll be the one suffering, won't I? Bailey Yun's lips moved. There was a sentence that reached his throat, but he swallowed it. Xiao Bao stared at him and asked, Second uncle, did you go to my father's office last year? Bailey Yun thought for a while and said, there was a period of time last year when I worked at your father's company. Going to his office was a common occurrence. Have you ever sat in his chair? He touched his chin. Yes, his chair was very comfortable. Xiao Bao clenched his fists nervously. It seemed that the hair he picked up in the office was most likely Bailey Yun's. Bailey Yun did not know what he was thinking at the moment. He hesitated for a moment and said, Xiao Bao, if the test results show, will you hate me? Xiao Bao's dark eyes were cold and his voice was cold. What's going on between you and Suzuki Chisakura? Bailey Yun suddenly felt ashamed of his past. He was too embarrassed to speak, but in front of Xiao Bao, he did not want to hide anything. He gritted his teeth and said, I've done a lot of ridiculous things in the past, especially after I was sent to America. I took drugs and went to jail because of a fight. I've had many girlfriends, and Suzuki Chisakura was one of them. Xiao Bao said coldly, did you know about her pregnancy? No. If you knew, would you take responsibility? Bailey Yun's eyes were filled with pain. He was silent for a long time before he said, if it was me 6 years ago, I wouldn't. Xiao Bao sneered. The current you wouldn't either. Bailey Yun tried to reason with him. The current me may have a lot of shortcomings, but at least I won't be promiscuous. Unless I like her, I won't touch her. Since she's someone I like, I'll naturally take responsibility. Xiao Bao crossed his arms. He was unbelievably calm. So, even if Suzuki Chisakura comes looking for you now, you won't take responsibility because you don't like her, right? In front of him, Bailey Yun felt as if he had been stripped of all his pretense. Although he was unwilling, he had to admit that Xiao Bao's words hit the nail on the head. He nodded stiffly. Xiao Bao laughed mockingly. In the eyes of adults, what are children? Xiao Bao, forget it. It's too early to talk about this. Let's wait for the test results to come out. Xiao Bao turned his back to him and built an invisible barrier between the two of them. They did not tell anyone about the paternity test. Xia Dong wanted to ask Xiao Bao about their whereabouts today, but Xiao Bao was very tight-lipped. She had no choice. After thinking about it for a long time, she was still worried. She called Mika Kito and asked him to investigate Suzuki Chisakura's background. She felt that this woman was not simple and was worried that she would play tricks. The next day, Bailey's family received a letter from Suzuki Chisakura's lawyer. Her lawyer said that Suzuki Chisakura had filed a lawsuit in court, intending to fight for Xiao Bao's custody through legal means. Bailey's family was furious. Behind Xiao Bao's back, the old madam scolded Suzuki Chisakura. Bailey Han hired the most famous lawyer in a city at a high price to fight this case. Bailey Yun was also furious. However, he did not act rashly. He was waiting for the results of the paternity test. Awesome novel, Hongcha 866. Chapter 326. The results of the paternity test were out. Bailey Yun and Xiao Bao were 99% related by blood. In other words, they were biological father and son. Bailey Yun sat in the driver's seat, holding the report with both hands. He did not react for a long time. Xiao Bao already knew that this would be the result. He was very calm and looked at him coldly. What do you plan to do now? Bailey Yun's fingers clenched tightly. He crumpled the report into a ball and threw it into the glove compartment. He did not know how to face Xiao Bao, so he did not look at him. His gaze was unfocused as he stared ahead. His voice was dry. Do you want to be with me or your mommy? Xiao Bao was silent for a long time. Is there any possibility of you two being together? Bailey Yun's fingers tightened on the steering wheel. The veins on the back of his hand were throbbing. He had never been so embarrassed before. He opened his mouth and squeezed out a few words. I'm sorry. Sorry, it was impossible for them to be together. In fact, Xiao Bao had already expected this. He could tell that Bailey Yun had feelings for Li Duobao. However, no matter how smart he was just a child. He wanted to have a complete family with his biological parents. Xiao Bao turned around. He did not want to see him anymore. His big eyes were filled with tears. He said softly, whatever. I'll be with whoever wins the lawsuit. Xiao Bao, don't say things out of anger. Bailey Yun suddenly turned his shoulders. When he saw the tears in Xiao Bao's eyes, he was stunned. Then, he hugged his weak little body tightly. His voice was pained. I'm sorry, Xiao Bao. I'm very sorry. Xiao Bao's tears fell. He said in a sobbing voice, what do you have to be sorry for? Anyway, I'm just the product of your youth. Give me back my parents. I don't want you. I don't want you at all. I'm sorry, I'm sorry. It's all my fault. Bailey Yun's eyes were also filled with tears. He hugged Xiao Bao tightly. Xiao Bao, follow me. Although I don't know how to be a good father, I will work hard and make it up to you. Trust me. Xiao Bao wailed in his arms. As he cried, he pounded on his back and cried, I don't want you guys, I don't want you guys. Bailey Yun felt terrible. He regretted the absurd things he had done in the past. Xiao Bao, listen to me. If you follow me, you won't have to leave your parents. You'll even have a father who loves you, okay? Just follow me, okay? He held Xiao Bao's face in his hands. His eyes were filled with apprehension and anticipation. He was practically begging him. Xiao Bao, let me make it up to you, okay? Xiao Bao looked at him in fear and trepidation. Her tears fell even more fiercely. She bit her lower lip and neither shook nor nodded. She remained silent. The father and son were in a deadlock. The melodious ringing of the phone broke the stiff atmosphere. Bailey Yun maintained his original position and did not intend to answer the phone. However, the caller had great perseverance and persisted in calling over and over again. In the end, he could not take it anymore and grabbed the phone. When he saw the caller ID, he saw that it was a string of unfamiliar numbers. He was furious and said fiercely, who is this? Suzuki Chisakura's seductive voice came through. Ah Yun, why are you so angry? Who provoked you? Bailey Yun's body stiffened and his tone became even worse. Suzuki Chisakura, what exactly do you want? Don't you know what I want? Bailey Yun glanced at Xiao Bao and strode out of the car. He slammed the door and walked to the side of the road. He said coldly, why do you have to go to court? Don't you know that this will hurt Xiao Bao? It's your family that's too ruthless. I just want my son back. Is that wrong? Bailey Yun's eyes burned with anger. If you really care about your son, why did you abandon him? Suzuki Chisakura was also angry. What right do you have to criticize me? Even if I'm irresponsible, I'm still 100 times better than you as a father. Bailey Yun was so angry that he almost threw the phone away. He roared, I'm warning you, withdraw the lawsuit as soon as possible. Suzuki Chisakura gritted her teeth and suppressed her anger. She sneered. If you agree to my conditions, I'll withdraw the lawsuit. What conditions? First, you have to marry me. Second, our family of 3 will go to Japan. Dream on. I won't marry you, and I definitely won't give Xiao Bao to you. Bailey Yun wanted nothing more than to drag Suzuki Chisakura over from the other end of the phone and give her a good beating. Although he never hit women, he didn't mind making an exception. Suzuki Chisakura laughed. Actually, I'm very curious. If the old madam and your father know that Xiao Bao is actually your son, do you think they'll agree to my conditions? Bailey Yun's heart suddenly tightened. He was on guard. What are you going to do? She giggled. Me? I'm on my way to your house now. What do you think I'm going to do? Bailey Yun was furious. Suzuki Chisakura. Stop it right now. That's strange. You're not my husband. Why should I listen to you? Alright, don't be angry. Come back quickly. Maybe our family of 3 will have a chance to reunite at your house. Suzuki Chisakura, hey, D*MN woman, how dare you hang up on me? Bai Lian angrily threw the phone onto the road. Coincidentally, a car sped past and ruthlessly ran over the phone. The poor phone was completely scrapped. He jumped into the car angrily. His face was livid. He stepped on the accelerator and the car sped away. Xiao Bao saw his angry face and puffed up his cheeks. What did that woman say? Bailey Yun's voice was filled with uncontrollable anger. She wants to expose our relationship. To great-grandmother and the rest? Yes. On the other side, at Bailey's old residence. Suzuki Chisakura walked gracefully into the living room under the guidance of the butler. She sat calmly opposite the old madam. The old madam's expression was ugly as she said coldly, Miss Suzuki, what brings you here today? Suzuki Chisakura smiled faintly. Old madam, Bailey's family is reputable after all. It won't look good if we go to court. I intend to settle this privately. What do you think? The old madam's eyes were sharp. You were the one who went to court. Now you want to settle this privately? What do you take Bailey's family for? Old madam, don't be so agitated. I have my concerns too. She chuckled and changed the topic. Why don't you listen to my conditions first? The old madam said stiffly, all right, I'll listen to them. Suzuki Chisakura smiled. It's not difficult to get me to give up Xiao Bao's custody. As long as Bailey Yun marries me and agrees to live with me in Japan, I'll withdraw the lawsuit. The old madam was stunned. What does this have to do with Ah Yun? Suzuki Chisakura covered her mouth and laughed. So you really don't know? Xiao Bao is Ah Yun and my son. What? The old madam was shocked. Her eyes widened in disbelief. How could this be? 6 years ago, Ayun and I met in the United States. We had a short relationship. I got pregnant and went back to Japan to give birth to Xiao Bao, but he didn't know about it, Suzuki Chisakura explained calmly. The old madam placed her hand on her chest. It was obvious that this matter was too much for her. She couldn't catch her breath for a long time. Old madam, what do you think of my suggestion? Suzuki Chisakura calmly took a sip of tea as if she hadn't said the shocking news. The old madam stroked her chest and forced herself to calm down. She frowned. You said that Xiao Bao is your and Ah Yun's child. What evidence do you have? If you don't believe me, we can do a paternity test. Or, Ah Yun has already done a paternity test with Xiao Bao. When Ah Yun comes back, you can ask him. Then you'll know if I'm telling the truth. Suzuki Chisakura had told Bailey Yun about Xiao Bao's background in advance. It wasn't unreasonable. She had already planned everything. She had calculated the first and the second step very well. The old madam was, after all, experienced and knowledgeable. She quickly realized this point. She stared at Suzuki Chisakura with her deep eyes. If what you said is true, then you took Bailey's family to court to force Ah Yun to marry you. The older the ginger, the spicier it is. Old madam saw through my little trick at a glance. Bailey's family is a prestigious family in a city. Some people are envious, some are jealous. You don't know how many pairs of eyes are watching you. If there's a scandal in the Bailey's family, and the second young master's illegitimate son is adopted by the eldest young master's wife, and the birth mother comes to ask for custody of the child many years later, don't you think it will attract a lot of attention? The old madam's eyes were burning with anger. She said coldly, Suzuki Chisakura, have you ever thought about who will be hurt the most if this matter becomes an uproar? Xiao Bao. Have you ever thought about him? Suzuki Chisakura stopped smiling and looked indifferent. Xiao Bao is my son. Of course I think about him. He needs a complete family. If I don't do this, will you agree to let Bailey Yun marry me? The old madam was so angry that she pointed at her nose. You're just doing it for your own selfish desires. You don't deserve to be Xiao Bao's mother. Suzuki Chisakura sneered. If I don't deserve to be Xiao Bao's mother, then I wouldn't have given birth to him 5 years ago. For him, I've suffered so much. Who among you can understand? Her words not only shocked the old madam, but also shocked Bailey Yun, who appeared at the door with Xiao Bao in his arms. Before the old madam could speak, Bailey Yun roared angrily, Suzuki Chisakura, shut up. Suzuki Chisakura's body stiffened and she slowly turned her head. She saw Bailey Yun appear at the door with Xiao Bao in his arms. He was sweating profusely, and it was obvious that he had run in a hurry. Xiao Bao was staring at her with a pair of cold eyes. It was obvious that her words had hurt him. A hint of panic flashed across her eyes. Xiao Bao, listen to me. I didn't mean it that way. Xiao Bao lowered his eyes and ignored her. He jumped down from Bailey Yun's arms and said politely to the old madam, Great-grandmother, I'll go back to my room first. Attention, Shinwu 799. Chapter 327. Old Madame Gu's eyes were filled with worry. Okay, good boy. Go up quickly. Xiao Bao didn't look at anyone else. He turned around and walked upstairs with his head held high. When he was out of their sight, tears quickly gathered in his eyes. He raised his hand and wiped them away. Xiao Bao. Xia Dong saw him in the corridor and jogged over to him. She gently wiped his tears. Xiao Bao, what's wrong? Mom. Xiao Bao suddenly threw himself into her arms and hugged her tightly. He couldn't control his tears any longer. Mom, why did you adopt me in the first place? Because the first time I saw you, I felt that you were my son. Xia Dong kissed his cheek and carried him to his room. She whispered, Xiao Bao, your father and I will always be your parents. Yeah, I know. He leaned his head against her chest. It was very warm. It was this chest that sheltered him from the wind and rain. In his heart, she would always be his mother. Xia Dong carried him back to his room. She stroked his soft hair and said gently, Baby, are you tired? Do you want to rest for a while? Xiao Bao tugged at her clothes and looked at her pitifully with his big wet eyes. Mom, stay with me. Okay, it's rare for my son to be so obedient. Xia Dong smiled as she tucked him into the blanket. She also got in and hugged him. He puffed up his cheeks and muttered unhappily, I've always been very obedient. Yes, you're obedient. Xia Dong's eyes curved. She stroked his pink little face. Close your eyes and sleep for a while. When you wake up, all your worries will be gone. Mom, you're lying. I'm not a child anymore. Xia Dong snorted. In my eyes, you'll always be a child. He pouted and did not refute. His dim eyes gradually lit up, and he said coquettishly, Mom, I want to listen to a lullaby. Okay, I'll sing it for you. Gigai, close your eyes. Xia Dong stroked his hair and hummed a lullaby softly. He didn't know how many times he hummed it, but his breathing gradually stabilized. She stopped humming and turned sideways to look at the sleeping little fellow, her eyes overflowing with warmth. Downstairs, the conversation between the old madam and the other two had reached a stalemate. Bailey Yun was already on the verge of exploding. The old lady gave him a look to stop him from speaking again, and ordered Suzuki Chisakura to leave. Miss Suzuki, we will consider your conditions. Please go back first. All right, old madam. Let me remind you that the court will be in session in a week. You have to make a decision as soon as possible. With that, Suzuki Chisakura politely bowed to the old madam and Bailey Yun before leaving. The old madam supported her forehead with one hand, looking exhausted. Ah, Yun, is what that woman said true? Is Xiao Bao really your son? Bailey Yun lowered his eyes. Yes. The old madam was stunned for a moment before she sighed slowly. You heard her conditions. What do you think? Bailey Yun did not hesitate. I won't marry her, and I won't live with her in Japan. Xiao Bao's custody can't be handed over to her either. The old madam looked at him. Are you ready to raise Xiao Bao? Bailey Yun looked serious. Grandma, I know I've done a lot of ridiculous things in the past. I've thought it through these 2 days. It's time for me to pay for my past absurdity. Whether you agree or not, I'll fight for the custody of Xiao Bao. He's my son. He emphasized the last sentence with a serious look in his eyes. The old madam's eyes gradually filled with admiration. She nodded. Ah, Yun, you've finally matured. Don't worry. As long as you're determined, the Bailey family will fight for Xiao Bao's custody no matter what price we have to pay. If the old madam still had some misgivings before, she no longer had any. After all, Xiao Bao was still a descendant of the Bailey family. She couldn't be happier. The old madam quickly announced the news to the whole family. Everyone felt the same way. At first, they were shocked, but after thinking about it carefully, they felt happy. No matter what, Xiao Bao was still a descendant of the Bailey family. After everyone calmed down, they began to discuss how to deal with Suzuki Chisakura. Bailey Han said, Lawyer Ian said that if the case is purely about the adoption, we have a high chance of winning. However, if Suzuki Chisakura turns her attention to fighting for custody with the child's father, the outcome will be difficult to predict because the law generally favors the mother. The old madam nodded. That's what I'm worried about. Suzuki Chisakura made her intentions clear today. She'll fight for custody at all costs. She'll definitely make a big fuss about Ah Yun. Bailey Yun frowned. She knows us like the back of her hand, but we don't even know her background. It looks like we're already at a disadvantage. Bailey Han smiled. Don't worry. We'll find out about Suzuki Chisakura's background very soon. Xia has already asked Mika Kido to help investigate her. We'll get the results by tomorrow at the latest. Bailey Yun relaxed his frown. As long as we produce evidence to prove that she's not a good mother and can't raise Xiao Bao, the law will be on our side. While the Bailey family was discussing countermeasures, Suzuki Chisakura made her move. She hired someone to spread the news online. The title was, Rich Second Young Master's Illegitimate Child Was Adopted by Sister-in-Law. Shocking inside story exposed. Although the name of the protagonist was hidden in the post, it described the protagonist's family relationship and marital status in detail. A few months ago, Xia Dong and Bailey Han's marriage had caused a stir. Everyone knew about them, so it was easy to connect Xia Dong and Bailey Yun with the protagonist in the post. Some people even speculated that Bailey Yun and Xia Dong had an affair, so Xia Dong was raising the illegitimate child for him. After the post became popular online, it quickly attracted the attention of the media. At this time, someone with ulterior motives exposed the lawsuit between Suzuki Chisakura and the Bailey family over Xiao Bao's custody. Outside the lawyer's building, a reporter ran into Suzuki Chisakura. She appeared in public as a very loving mother who had been searching for her son for many years. Her eyes were red as she repeatedly said that she didn't want to ruin the Bailey family's peaceful life. She just missed her son so much that she wanted to reunite with him. In short, before the lawsuit started, the public began to sympathize with the weak Suzuki Chisakura. A large number of reporters flocked to the Bailey family's mansion, wanting to interview them, but they all avoided meeting them. Even if they were unfortunately blocked by reporters, they kept their mouths shut and remained silent. The battle between the Bailey family and the Japanese woman for the child began with a bang. Everyone was curious and wanted to see who would win. There were 5 days until the first court hearing. Xiaodong finally received the information from the Yamaguchi group from Japan. There were a total of 10 sheets of paper, all of which contained information about Suzuki Chisakura. Xiaodong hurriedly skimmed through the information and her face darkened. She felt that this was a serious matter and immediately handed the information to Old Madam. After reading it, Old Madam angrily slammed the information on the table and said, "This Suzuki Chisakura is really something. If she's so capable, why didn't she wait until she was infertile to find Xiao Bao? She obviously wants to use Xiao Bao." It turned out that Suzuki Chisakura's personal information was full of misdeeds. After she abandoned Xiao Bao, she became a kabuki to make a living. Later, she hooked up with Matsuda Taro, the leader of the Matsuda Mafia in Tokyo, and became his mistress. She was Matsuda Taro's mistress for 2 years. One day, Matsuda Taro's wife and son died in a car accident. According to the information, Suzuki Chisakura was the main suspect in the accident. However, due to insufficient evidence, she was acquitted. She was promoted from mistress to Matsuda Taro's second wife. 5 months ago, Matsuda Taro passed away due to illness. Suzuki Chisakura defeated Matsuda Taro's nephew, Matsuda Taihei, with the support of several elders in the mafia. She ascended to the position of mafia leader and became the first female mafia boss in Tokyo. According to the information, Suzuki Chisakura did not give birth to a child for Matsuda Taro in the past few years. She had gone to the gynecology hospital for a checkup. According to the doctor, she had lost her ability to conceive. It was not difficult to explain why she was determined to take back Xiao Bao's custody. It was because Xiao Bao was her only child in her life. Moreover, although she controlled the Matsuda Mafia, her power was still weak. If the power behind her genius son helped her, it would be much easier for her. Xiaodong frowned and said, "Grandma, if these things are exposed, Suzuki Chisakura won't have the upper hand in court. However, I think it's better to deal with it privately. I don't want Xiao Bao to be hurt." The old lady nodded. "You're right. We have to think about this carefully. Xia, call Ahan back and let him take a look at this information." Bailey Han received a call from Xiaodong and immediately rushed back from the company. After carefully reading the information on Suzuki Chisakura, he said, "Although Suzuki Chisakura has controlled the Matsuda Mafia, Matsuda Taihei's power must still be in the Mafia. We can use this as a breakthrough." Xiaodong's eyes lit up. "You plan to help Matsuda Taihei compete with her for the position of Mafia leader?" Bailey Han smiled. "That's right. If there's a fire in her backyard, she won't have so much energy to fight with us. She has something on us, but we also have something on her. It's just a matter of whose trump card is bigger." The old lady nodded approvingly. "I think it's more appropriate to leave this matter to Mika Kido. Yamaguchi Gumi has deep roots in Japan and can gain Matsuda Taihei's trust. Xia, help me contact Mika Kido. I'll ask her for help personally." Attention, Songshu 566. Chapter 328. On the day of the trial, the media gathered. There were many reporters and cars outside the courthouse. As soon as the plaintiff, Suzuki Chian Sakura's luxurious Maserati appeared, all the cameras were focused on her. Not far away, the host of the live broadcast introduced Suzuki Chian Sakura to the audience in front of the TV. "Ladies and gentlemen, the car driving into the courthouse is the plaintiff, Suzuki Chian Sakura. Suzuki Chian Sakura is the second wife of Matsuda Taro of the Matsuda Group. She came all the way to China to find her son who had been separated from her for 5 years. In front of the public, Suzuki Chian Sakura's image as a mafia boss was gilded. The mafia Matsuda Group had also transformed into a famous industrial group in Tokyo. Just as the female host was talking about Suzuki Chian Sakura and the case, Bailey Yun's car slowly drove into the media's line of sight. He had changed his usual cool and unrestrained image in front of the media. It was rare for him to wear a formal suit and tie, and his blonde hair was dyed black. Obviously, He wanted to win the favor of the public and the judge with his image. Hello, Second Master. What are your thoughts on today's trial? Are you confident? Second Master, did you know beforehand that Xiao Bao was your son? Second Master, what happened between you and Miss Suzuki Chian Sakura? Is it possible for you to get back together and give your child a complete family? Second Master, in the face of the torrent of questions from the reporters, Bailey Yun's expression was cold and solemn. He replied in an official tone, "The trial is about to begin. Please wait and see." After that, he did not speak again. His thin lips were pursed as he walked to the courthouse under the protection of his bodyguards. Then, both sides' lawyers entered the courthouse and were also besieged by the reporters. However, the lawyers were all experienced and could not be influenced by anything. They solemnly said, "No comment," and stepped into the courthouse. There were 10 minutes before the start of the trial. The plaintiff and the defendant had already taken their respective seats. Suzuki Chian Sakura looked at Bailey Yun, who was sitting opposite her. The corners of her lips curled up and a smug look appeared in her eyes. She had a lot of evidence about Bailey Yun's absurd behavior in his early years, which was enough to push him into a disadvantageous position. Bailey Yun also stared at her with his deep eyes. His expression was calm and composed, as if he had a card up his sleeve. Suzuki Chisakura raised her eyebrows, treating his current behavior as a meaningless struggle before his death. There were still 5 minutes to the start of the trial. The judge slowly took his seat. Chian Sakura's phone suddenly rang. She glanced at the caller ID, pressed the answer button, and whispered in Japanese, "Ikeda, what's up?" "Madam, something bad has happened. Matsuda Taihei has convinced the 5 elders and plans to elect a new gang leader in 3 days." "What?" Suzuki Chisakura's expression changed. "How could this be? Didn't we already take care of those old men?" "It said that Matsuda Taihei bribed the 5 elders. In short, we'll be electing a new leader in 3 days. Madam, you should hurry back to Japan." "Got it." Suzuki Chisakura hung up the phone with a gloomy face. The court session was about to begin. The staff reminded everyone present to turn off their phones or put them on silent mode. Just as Suzuki Chisakura was about to turn off her phone, a text message popped up on her phone. It was from Bailey Yun. "Withdraw the lawsuit immediately, or you won't be able to keep your position as the gang leader." Damn it, this was Bailey Yun's doing. Suzuki Chisakura's hand trembled as she held the phone. She raised her head angrily and glared at Bailey Yun. Bailey Yun had a calm smile on his face. His slender eyebrows were slightly raised, and there was a hint of mockery in his eyes. His slender fingers slid across the phone and sent a text message from the draft box. Another text message popped up. Suzuki Chisakura opened the message. "We already know all of your secrets. If you don't withdraw the lawsuit, I don't mind letting the lawyer expose your scandals to the public." Suzuki Chisakura was so angry that she gritted her teeth, her beautiful face contorted. "Everyone, please be quiet. The court session is about to begin." The clerk was already announcing the rules of the court. Suzuki Chisakura's fingers were tightly twisted together. Her eyes were downcast, and there was a look of struggle in her eyes. The judge began to announce the cause of the case and the parties involved. Suzuki Chisakura gritted her teeth and suddenly stood up. "Your Honor, I request to withdraw the lawsuit." There was a sudden commotion in the silent courtroom. The judge knocked on the table. "Quiet. Plaintiff, your request to withdraw the lawsuit will need to be reviewed." After the court session, applications to withdraw the lawsuit would be reviewed by the court. If there was no illegal act or forced withdrawal of the lawsuit, the court would usually allow it. After a short adjournment, the judge allowed Suzuki Chisakura to withdraw the lawsuit after a discussion. Suzuki Chisakura was immediately surrounded by reporters when she came out of the courtroom. "Miss Suzuki, why did you decide to withdraw the lawsuit?" "Suzuki-san, did you decide to withdraw the lawsuit because you were forced by someone? Are you going to settle with Bailey Yun privately?" Suzuki Chisakura was wearing sunglasses, so no one could see her expression. Her lips were slightly curled, and she seemed to be very calm. She said in broken Chinese, "Thank you for your concern. I decided to withdraw the lawsuit because I don't want to hurt my son. I've decided to negotiate with Bailey Yun privately about the custody of my son." Someone asked sharply, "Miss Suzuki, if you want to protect your child, why didn't you choose to settle it privately from the beginning? Is there a reason why you've made this choice now that you're in a disadvantageous position legally?" "I'm sorry. I've said what I should say. Please make way." The bodyguards protected Suzuki Chisakura as they squeezed out of the encirclement. On the other side, Bailey Yun was also surrounded by many reporters. He was expressionless and did not reveal any special emotions for everyone to guess. He kept his mouth shut and did not answer any questions. Under the protection of his bodyguards, he got into his car. Suzuki Chisakura and Bailey Yun's car drove out of the media sight. Some reporters did not give up and followed behind, intending to secretly take photos. However, the two of them were not ordinary people. They had already noticed that someone was following them. The bodyguards drove the car left and right to get rid of the reporters. Suzuki Chisakura leaned back in the comfortable seat and dialed Bailey Yun's number. She said calmly, "I want to see you." Bailey Yun casually brushed the hair in front of his forehead. "Okay, I'll see you at Binchuan Road in half an hour." Their cars arrived at the agreed location one after another. There was a high-end tea house there, which Bailey Yun's friend had invested in and opened. The environment was elegant, and it was easy to hide. Under the guidance of the waiter, Chisakura Suzuki arrived at a luxurious private room on the second floor. Bailey Yun was lazily leaning on a bamboo chair. His slender fingers were holding a cup of tea as his fingertips gently caressed the delicate porcelain. His movements were elegant and leisurely. When she saw him like this, she felt anger rising in her heart. Knitting her brows, she sat opposite him with a belly full of anger. She coldly said, "What a clever method. It seems that I've underestimated your family." Bailey Yun looked at her with a cold smile. "If it wasn't for my clever method, I'm afraid that everyone would have been fooled by your motherly face." "Suzuki Chisakura, aren't you disgusting? You actually want to use Xiao Bao." Suzuki Chisakura flew into a rage out of humiliation. "What do you mean by that? I just want my son back. How is that using Xiao Bao?" Bailey Yun sneered. "If you still have the ability to give birth, will you remember Xiao Bao? If Xiao Bao wasn't the young master of Yamaguchi Gumi and the young master of the Dark Knight clan, will you still insist on him back? You still haven't gained a firm foothold in the Matsuda group. If you have the help of Yamaguchi Gumi and the Dark Knight clan, you can sleep on Wu Yu. Do you think that you can fool everyone with your little tricks? Aren't you looking down on us too much?" Suzuki Chisakura's wishful thinking was exposed, and a trace of panic flashed in her eyes. However, she quickly recovered her emotions and stroked the hair by her ear. "I admit that what you said is the truth, but that doesn't deny that I love Xiao Bao. I'm his mother, and I have the right to take him back." Bailey Yun stared at her coldly and said word by word, "From the moment you abandoned him, you didn't deserve to be his mother. The reason why I gave you a chance and didn't expose your scandal in court was because I didn't want Xiao Bao to know how hateful you are as a mother." Suzuki Chisakura couldn't control herself anymore and said angrily, "Bailey Yun, that's enough. You keep saying that I'm not good, but you're no better than me. You only care about your own pleasure and don't even know about your son's existence. What right do you have to criticize me?" Bailey Yun pursed his thin lips and said coldly, "I admit that I'm not a good father, but at least I truly love Xiao Bao and don't have any selfish motives. I'm not here today to quarrel with you. Suzuki Chisakura, how about we make a deal?" Suzuki Chisakura stared at him cautiously. "What deal?" Bailey Yun curled his lips mockingly. "I'll help you secure your position as the leader, and you'll give up Xiao Bao's custody. Without my permission, you're not allowed to visit Xiao Bao." She gritted her teeth and said, "Don't even think about it." He crossed his arms and leaned back leisurely. "If you don't agree, you can go back to Japan now to deal with Matsuda Taihei's seizure of power. It won't be too late for us to talk when you're done. Suzuki Chisakura was choked by his words and her face turned red and white. Actually, on the way to the tea house, she had contacted her right-hand man, Ikeda, and learned that Ikeda had already communicated with the 5 elders of the gang. However, those old men were as stubborn as stones in a latrine pit. No matter how they were coerced or tempted, they refused to change their minds and firmly supported Matsuda Taihei. She didn't know what benefits Matsuda Taihei had given them. Bailey Yun put the teacup on the table and stood up comfortably. Alright, that's all for today. I'll be waiting for you to come back whenever you're done with your business. Suzuki Chisakura was furious, but there was nothing she could do. She could only watch as he walked out of the room. Then, she was so angry that she swept all the tea sets on the table to the floor. The tea spilled all over the floor and the pieces flew everywhere. Add. Songshu 566. Chapter 329. Bailey Yun, who had just walked out of the door, naturally heard the noise inside. He patted the shoulder of the waiter standing next to him and winked at him. The waiter nodded, walked into the room, and bowed politely to Suzuki Sakura. Miss, this tea set is an antique from the Ming Dynasty. It's worth 5 million. Would you like to pay by card or cash? Suzuki Chisakura's vision turned dark and she almost fainted from anxiety. Bailey Yun smiled, put his hands in his trouser pockets, and hummed a song as he went downstairs. In the hall, he met the owner of the tea house, Xiao Shu. Xiao Shu glanced at the second floor, raised his eyebrows, and smiled. No wonder you suddenly asked me to replace the tea set with a valuable antique. It's a pity that my porcelain was all smashed by someone's anger. Bailey Yun raised his eyebrows and smiled. Come on, your antiques are worth 4 million at most. Won't you be happy if I let you make a net profit of 1 million? Okay, buddy. Thank you. Xiao Shu patted him on the shoulder. When your matter is solved, let's go for a drink together. Bailey Yun smiled. Okay, it's a deal. Don't stand me up again. I just stood you up to accompany my wife on New Year's Eve. Do you have to remember it until now? Xiao Shu said. He suddenly looked at the stairs and lowered his voice. They're coming down. Do you want to hide? What are you afraid of? It's not like I forced her to throw those things. Bai Lian lazily shrugged his shoulders and leaned back on the sofa. Xiao Shu shook his head. Suzuki Sakura followed the waiter and slowly walked down from the second floor. It could be seen that her face was very ugly. When she saw Bailey Yun sitting on the sofa and chatting with others, her eyes immediately filled with anger, but she couldn't do anything. The waiter led her to Xiao Shu and said politely, Miss Suzuki, this is the boss of our tea house, Mr. Xiao. Mr. Xiao, Miss Suzuki accidentally broke your favorite Ming Dynasty tea set. She wants to discuss the compensation with you face to face. Xiao Shu extended his hand in invitation. Miss Suzuki, please sit. Bailey Yun's eyes were filled with a mischievous smile. He coughed and said, Xiao Shu, since you still have something to do, I won't bother you anymore. Let's meet again another day. Xiao Shu patted his shoulder, the smile in his eyes self-evident. Alright, take care. Bailey Yun completely ignored Chisakura Suzuki. After bidding farewell to Xiao Shu, he put on his sunglasses and walked out of the tea house. Suzuki Chisakura held back her anger and negotiated with Xiao Shu, saying that her lawyer would ask someone to evaluate the value of the antique, and then she would compensate. Xiao Shu didn't seem to have any intention of making things difficult for her and nodded in agreement. However, there was a saying that a strong dragon couldn't suppress a local snake. It wasn't difficult for people like Xiao Shu to make the antique appraiser give an extra million when evaluating the tea set. Bailey Yun suppressed Suzuki Chisakura and caused her to lose money, so he was in a good mood. He predicted that she wouldn't last long and would surrender to his conditions. After all, he had experienced Mika Kito's methods. He smirked and turned on the music in the car. Suddenly, his phone rang. He turned off the music and answered the car phone. Hello, who is this? The person on the other end of the phone hesitated for a moment. Bailey Yun, it's me, Lee Duobao. Bailey Yun's eyes narrowed. He coughed and his voice softened. What's the matter? Lee Duobao grunted and said uncomfortably, I saw the news. It's about you and Xiao Bao. He tightened his grip on the steering wheel and his expression became cold. Well, I heard that Suzuki Chisakura withdrew the lawsuit today. Are you okay? Bailey Yun's brows relaxed slightly and the corners of his lips curled up imperceptibly. Li Duobao, are you worried about me? She paused and suddenly shouted anxiously, I just don't want Xiao Bao to be snatched away by that woman. Alright, I know my attitude is wrong because that woman is Xiao Bao's biological mother. Forget it, I don't know what I'm talking about. I'm hanging up, don't hang up yet. Hello, Li Duobao, beep beep. Bailey Yun stared ahead and his facial muscles twitched uncontrollably. This despicable woman actually dared to hang up on him. He turned the steering wheel with both hands and drove in another direction. Li Duobao was very annoyed and scratched her head hard. What nonsense was she talking about? She had nothing to do with Bailey Yun, so why was she so worried? Those were his family matters. Li Duobao stared at the landline on the table and frowned in frustration. Should she call him to apologize? She shook her head. Forget it. That guy would definitely misunderstand. Yes, that's right. She shouldn't call him. She was flying to New York tomorrow. She'd better hurry up and pack her luggage. Yes, that's it. Li Duobao muttered to herself and turned around decisively. She didn't look at the phone anymore and went back to the bedroom to pack her luggage. As she was too engrossed in packing her luggage, she quickly forgot what she was worried about. Half an hour later, she was already in the kitchen, planning to cook something delicious for herself. The phone in her pocket rang. She wiped her hands and took it out. When she saw the name on the screen, she hesitated for a moment. She asked carefully, Bailey Yun, what's the matter? Bailey Yun's cold voice came from the other side. Come downstairs. Huh? I'm downstairs. Come down right now. Okay, she immediately took off her apron, put on her down jacket, locked the door and ran downstairs. In less than 2 minutes, Bailey Yun saw a white figure running towards him. Li Duobao bent over and supported her legs with both hands, panting heavily. I'm so tired. I ran down. Bailey Yun stared at her in disdain. Then, his gaze fell on her feet. She was wearing a pair of furry slippers with rabbit ears. Isn't there an elevator? Also, why didn't you change your shoes and zip up your clothes? She scratched her head embarrassedly. I was afraid that you'd wait for too long. His eyes flickered. He suddenly walked forward and held her shoulders with both hands to help her stand up straight. Then, he grabbed the hem of her down jacket. She widened her eyes in shock. What are you doing? Idiot, I'm going to help you zip it up. Bailey Yun lowered his head and slowly pulled up the zipper of her jacket. Li Duobao blushed in embarrassment and took 2 steps back. Why are you looking for me? Which floor are you staying on? Let's talk upstairs. Bailey Yun turned and walked towards the building. She was stunned for a moment and ran after him. I'm on the 5th floor. The room wasn't big, but it was very clean and decorated cozily. There were 3 or 4 cartoon character pillows on the sofa in the living room. There was a thin blanket on the back of the chair. Seeing that he was staring at the blanket, she quickly put it away and hid it behind her back. She smiled awkwardly. I like to lie on the sofa and watch TV. Have a seat first. I'll be back soon. She ran back to the bedroom with the blanket and quickly rushed to the kitchen to make a pot of hot tea for him. The aroma of rice wafted from the rice cooker. Bailey Yun looked up at the kitchen. You're cooking? Yeah, I haven't cooked yet. Do you want to stay for dinner? All right, he answered quickly. She hesitated for a moment and said, Why are you looking for me? Bailey Yun leaned back and leaned against the sofa comfortably. He held his chin with one hand and looked at her with a burning gaze. Let me ask you. Were you worried about me when you called me just now? Her cheeks were slightly hot. I wasn't worried about you. I was worried about Xiao Bao, he pressed on. You were asking about me. She lowered her head and scratched the sofa with her fingers. She said stubbornly, that was a slip of the tongue. I wanted to ask if you guys were okay. His lips moved. He wanted to say something, but she stood up and said angrily, I'm not going to talk nonsense with you anymore. I'm going to cook. Bailey Yun watched as she busied herself in the kitchen. His irritable mood gradually calmed down. He thought that it was time to sort out his feelings for Li Duobao. Was it a spur-of-the-moment interest in her? Was it because he found her fresh and interesting, or did he really like her? Li Duobao still remembered the embarrassing incident when she treated him to hot pot last time. This time, to take care of his taste, some dishes didn't have chili, while some dishes only had a little chili. Bailey Yun helped her bring the fragrant dishes to the table. The dishes that looked, smelled, and tasted good made his appetite whet. He ate with relish and praised, I didn't expect you to know how to cook when you look so silly. She puffed up her cheeks. Her big eyes were filled with dissatisfaction. Are you praising me? When I was young, my father passed away early. My mother was very busy with work. When I came home from school, I would cook and wait for my mother to come back so that we could eat together. Bailey Yun looked at her with a complicated expression. She suddenly burst out laughing. You don't know. When I first learned how to cook, I was only 7 years old. I was too short. Here, I was this tall. She gestured with her hand. When I was cooking, I couldn't reach the pot, so I moved a small stool in front of the gas stove and stood on it to cook. In the end, one time, I was too close to the gas stove and the flames almost set my clothes on fire. Fortunately, I smelled the stench. Bailey Yun's heart felt stuffy and a little uncomfortable. He stared at her. You were almost injured. How can you still laugh? She touched her nose embarrassedly. It was very dangerous at that time. But now that I think about it, I feel that it's very funny. Bailey Yun suddenly had an impulse to hug this silly girl in his arms. She grew up in a single-parent family and had a perverted stepfather. However, she had developed a cheerful personality. She did not complain about misfortune and was positive and optimistic about life. She was a very silly but very cute girl. His gaze made Li Duobao a little uncomfortable. She touched her cheek and pouted. Why are you staring at my face? Is there something dirty on it? He suddenly grinned. Come here. I'll help you wipe it. Oh, okay. She obediently moved her face closer to his. He leaned over and gently planted a kiss on her rosy cheeks. Her eyes suddenly widened. He said, Li Duobao, let's date. This time, I'm serious. Add Songshu 566. Chapter 330. Li Duobao's eyes were filled with panic. She suddenly screamed and pushed him away. She fled into the bedroom in a panic, even dropping one of her furry slippers. No matter how much Bai Lian knocked on the door, she refused to come out, and refused to talk to him. In the end, he had no choice but to put on his coat and leave. Before leaving, he knocked on her door again. Li Duobao, I'm serious. I think I like you. Think about what I said. Bai Lian nodded and said, Li Duobao, I'm serious. I think I like you. There was still no response from the room. Bailey Yun was a little disappointed and annoyed. He walked out of the building dejectedly. An hour later. He was still sitting in the Ferrari, looking at the floor where she lived from afar. He pounded the steering wheel in annoyance. How could he have been so reckless? He must have scared her now. When he thought of her panicked eyes, as if he was a pervert, he couldn't help but feel annoyed. He called her number, but no one answered. Maybe he should give her time to calm down and think about it. Bailey Yun sighed and finally started the car. Suzuki Chisakura returned to Japan that day. However, she didn't give up on Xiao Bao. She had people secretly follow Bailey Yun and monitor the situation at Bailey's house. When she rushed back to the Matsuda group, she realized that the situation was so serious that she couldn't solve it. Even the subordinates who used to support her had now transferred to Matsuda Taihei's camp. When she communicated with the 5 elders, she found out that Mika Kito had intervened in the matter. He was using the power of Yamaguchi Gumi to put pressure on the 5 elders. Suzuki Chisakura immediately contacted Mika Kito and wanted to negotiate with him, but Mika Kito refused to talk to her. He asked Suzaku to pass on a message to her. He said, if you don't give up Xiao Bao's custody, she can never be the leader of the Matsuda group. Suzuki Chisakura was so angry that she threw the phone on the floor. She crazily pushed everything on her desk to the floor. After a while, she slumped against the back of the chair and took out a very small photo from the drawer. In the photo was a cute baby. Her slender fingers caressed the photo as tears slowly slid down her face. After a long time, she put the photos back into the drawer. There were still 2 days left. She hoped that things would turn around. However, fate did not favor her. The subordinates who were monitoring Bailey Yun and the Bailey family reported that they did not find any evidence that could be used against them. Chian Sakura even thought of kidnapping the Bailey's family to threaten them, but they seemed to be prepared. They rarely went out in the past 2 days, and even if they did, there were at least 2 bodyguards following them. It was almost impossible to kidnap them. On the 3rd day, it was time for the Matsuda group to elect a new leader. Matsuda Corporation headquarters, inside a spacious and luxurious conference room. Wearing a kimono, Suzuki Chisakura sat at the head of the table with an expressionless face. Matsuda Taihei arrived late. He was wearing a black suit, and there was a gentle smile on his handsome face. It was obvious that he had a card up his sleeve. He was followed by the 5 elders, who looked like they were at his beck and call. "Auntie, I'm late. Please don't mind." Matsuda Taihei greeted her politely, but in Suzuki Chisakura's eyes, it was a provocation. Her beautiful eyes suddenly narrowed, and then she smiled. "Taihei, you're a nosy person. It's understandable that you're late." The 2 of them had already begun to exchange words. The elder coughed and said, "Ladies and gentlemen, today's meeting is to discuss the re-election." The old man rambled on, saying that Suzuki Chisakura was a woman and did not have the ability to lead the Matsuda group. The nephew of the former leader, Matsuda Taihei, was young and promising, and was the best candidate for the position. The more Suzuki Chisakura listened, the angrier she became. She felt terrible to see someone who used to support her become a supporter of her opponent. Her thirst for power swelled in her heart, and she felt like she was about to explode. She looked at the phone on the table and finally made up her mind. She coughed and interrupted the elder's long speech. "I'll take a 2-minute break. I have something to do." She did not care about the ugly expressions on everyone's faces. She picked up her phone and walked out of the conference room calmly. In the office, Suzuki Chisakura dialed Bailey Yun's cell phone. "Bailey Yun, I agree to your conditions." Bailey Yun's magnetic voice came through. "I'll say it again. My conditions are, 1. You give up Xiao Bao's custody. 2. You're not allowed to visit Xiao Bao without my consent." She gritted her teeth and said resolutely, "I agree to all of them." "Very well. Tell me the fax number, and I'll fax you the agreement." Bailey Yun had expected her to agree, so he had already asked the lawyer to draft the agreement. Suzuki Chian Sakura gave him the fax number, and within a minute, the agreement was faxed over. Bailey Yun said, "I've already signed the agreement. You just need to sign it, stamp it with your personal seal, and fax it to me. That's all." Suzuki Chisakura hurriedly read the agreement. It was very clear that she was willing to give up custody without any coercion. She had to get Bailey Yun's consent before she could visit Xiao Bao. The agreement also stated that the agreement was effective from the day it was faxed. The terms were very strict, and there were no loopholes. She picked up the pen and was about to sign it when she hesitated. Suddenly, her subordinate knocked on the door. "Madam, Mr. Matsuda Taihei asked me to rush you." They could not wait for her to step down. She made up her mind and no longer hesitated. She signed her name, stamped her seal, and faxed the agreement to Bailey Yun. When she came out of the office, her aura changed. She was cold and arrogant. She was waiting to see the exciting scene when Matsuda Taihei fell from the peak of hope. It was also at that moment that Suzuki Chisakura witnessed Beitangshin's ability to control the world with a flip of his hand. Just a minute before she walked into the meeting room, the 5 elders received a text message at the same time. It was only a few words. "Change the direction of the wind." So when Suzuki Chisakura walked into the meeting room again, the atmosphere had changed. She glanced at everyone and said calmly, "The meeting continues." "Great Elder, where were you?" The Great Elder smiled gently. "We were talking about a new election, which was requested by Mr. Matsuda Taihei. However, after discussing it with the other 4 elders and the brothers in the gang, we feel that there is no need for a new election." Matsuda Taihei still didn't know that he was a sacrifice in the battle between Suzuki Chizakura and the Bailey family. He was shocked and locked his eyes on the Great Elder. "Great Elder, did you say something wrong?" The Great Elder looked confused. "Did I say something wrong?" "No, I have always said that there is no need for a new election." "Don't you think so, other 4 elders?" The other 4 elders agreed. "That's right. That's what you said." "Nephew Taihei, did you hear wrongly?" Matsuda Taihei's expression changed. "What's wrong with all of you? Didn't you say that you would support me?" The second elder shook his head. TSK. "Nephew Taihei, why do you say that? Madam is doing well as the gang leader. Why would we support you?" A sneer appeared in Suzuki Chisakura's eyes as she looked at them with an expressionless face. Matsuda Taihei was so angry that he almost vomited blood. He pointed at the noses of the 5 elders and nodded angrily. "Good, very good. The 5 of you actually joined forces to deceive me. Taihei, have you lost your mind? When did we ever deceive you?" The 3rd elder stroked his beard with an innocent face. "Suzuki Chisakura, this is all part of your scheme, isn't it?" Matsuda Taihei pounced on Suzuki Chisakura in anger. The bodyguard behind her immediately rushed forward and stopped him. Suzuki Chisakura raised her hand and stopped the bodyguard from escorting Matsuda Taihei out. "Taihei, why are you so agitated?" "I didn't do anything. Every injustice has its perpetrator. This is the Yamaguchi-gumi's doing. If you have the ability, go and make trouble with Mika Kido." Matsuda Taihei's eyes narrowed as hatred flashed in his eyes. "Mika Kido?" "Yes. We've all been tricked by him." Suzuki Chisakura sighed. "You know how powerful the Yamaguchi-gumi is. They have always been eyeing the Matsuda group's territory. He intends to use this opportunity to disintegrate the Matsuda group. Don't fall into his trap." Then the 5 of them, Matsuda Taihei wasn't a fool. He wouldn't be easily fooled by Suzuki Chisakura's words. He pointed at the 5 elders. "What's going on with them?" Suzuki Chisakura stared at the 1st elder with a smile. "First elder, please explain to Taihei." The 1st elder's forehead was covered in sweat. He knew that she was using this opportunity to put him in his place. An idea flashed in his mind and he followed Suzuki Chisakura's words. "Taihei, Madam is right. Mika Kido has long wanted to disintegrate the Matsuda group. This time, he deliberately bribed the few of us to support you in seizing the gang leader's position, so as to provoke a dispute between you and Madam. Fortunately, the 5 of us saw through his scheme. At the critical moment, we didn't follow the path he set." The 1st elder walked to Matsuda Taihei's side and waved his hand, signaling the bodyguards to let him go. He patted Matsuda Taihei's shoulder and said apologetically, "I'm sorry that we lied to you. However, we only pretended to fool Mika Keto. Please forgive us. The second elder said, Nephew Taihei, no matter what misunderstanding you have with us, it's a gang matter. Our common enemy is Mika Keto. Suzuki Chisakura looked at Matsuda Taihei with a sincere gaze. Taihei, you're a sensible person. Let's pretend that nothing happened today. Let's think of a way to deal with Mika Keto together. Their words had dispelled all of Matsuda Taihei's doubts. They had also transferred all of his resentment to Mika Keto. As a result, Mika Keto was buried in a disaster. Awesome novel, Songshu 566. Chapter 331. Mika Keto had played a crucial role in the successful resolution of Xiao Bao's matter. In order to thank him, old Madame Han brought the whole family to treat him to a meal at Century Splendid. As usual, Beitangshan didn't have any expression on his face. Only when he was facing a few children would he reveal his warmth. Fortunately, the old madam also understood his personality, so she deliberately brought up some topics that everyone could join in the conversation. Thus, the atmosphere at the dinner was still harmonious. After the meal, everyone drank tea and chatted for a while before leaving. Bailey Yun had been absent-minded the whole time. From time to time, he would take out his phone and glance at it. When he came out of the hotel, Bailey Han patted him on the shoulder and said in a concerned tone, "What's the matter? I see that you've been absent-minded tonight." Bailey Yun shook his head. "It's nothing. If you have something to say, say it. Don't keep it to yourself." Bailey Yun's eyes moved. He was a little surprised. Bailey Han would never say such words in the past. Although they were brothers, they rarely interacted with each other. Looking at Bailey Han's serious expression, he didn't seem to be joking. He raised his eyebrows. "Okay, I got it." Bailey Han nodded. Xia Dong came out of the hotel with the children. Xiao Bao held Xiao Guai's hand and didn't look at Bailey Yun. Bailey Yun coughed and said, "Xiao Bao, are you taking my car or your father's car?" Xiao Bao didn't know how to face Bailey Yun. He didn't want to call him daddy, but he couldn't call him second uncle. When he had to talk to him, Xiao Bao would directly address him as, "you." Although Bailey Yun didn't feel good about it, he couldn't do anything about it. He understood that the relationship between father and son needed time to develop. Xiao Bao still refused to look at him and said calmly, "I'll go with Xiao Guai and Xiao Yi." That meant that she was going to take Bailey Han's car. Bailey Han gave Bailey Yun a look, indicating for him not to be anxious and to take it slow. Bailey Yun smiled bitterly as he watched the family of 6 get into the car. After returning home, the old madam summoned Bailey Yun to her study and had a long talk with him. The old madam said kindly, "Ah Yun, you are no longer alone. Do you have any plans for your life?" Bailey Yun had been thinking about this question for a long time. He frowned and said, "Grandma, my business is in America now. In 2 days, I will return to America. As for Xiao Bao, let him stay in China. I'll have to trouble big brother and sister-in-law to take care of him for a period of time. My company will enter the China market in a year at the latest. When that time comes, I will be stationed in China for a long time, and it will be convenient for me to take care of Xiao Bao." The old madam thought for a moment and said, "That's a good idea. However, you should discuss it with Xiao Bao first. There are many problems between you and your father, and you need to communicate well." Bailey Yun nodded. "I understand, Grandma." The old madam looked at the respectful grandson in front of her. He was no longer the hedonistic son of a rich family. She felt comforted and her tone became gentler. "Ah Yun, have you considered your personal problems?" Suddenly seeing the eagerness in her eyes, Bailey Yun was a little stunned. He had never thought that the old madam, who had always been strict and cold to him, would look at him with such eyes. He pursed his lips and felt a little uncomfortable. I actually have a girl that I like," the old madam hurriedly said. "What's her character like?" Bailey Yun coughed and his ears turned slightly red. "She's very innocent and not scheming. She's also a little silly. It was the old madam's first time seeing his embarrassed expression. She couldn't help but laugh. It's good that she has a good character. What does she do? Stewardess. Bailey Yun paused and deliberately softened his tone. Her family background is average. She comes from a single-parent family. The old madam's smile did not fade. She joked, "Why? Are you worried that I'll say something about your family background not matching, so I'll oppose you too? If it was a year ago, I might have really done that. But now, I've seen through it. Su Xingchen and Su Yunxian, which one of them isn't the daughter of a rich family? They're full of evil tricks. If I really married them, there would be no peace in the family. As long as that girl has a good character, a good heart, and won't mistreat Xiao Bao, I have no objections." A smile appeared in Bailey Yun's eyes and his lips curved. She likes Xiao Bao a lot. Xiao Bao likes her too. His marriage was a big worry for the old madam. At this moment, hearing him say this, she immediately felt relieved. She smiled and said, "That's good, that's good. Set a time with that girl. I'll meet her." Bailey Yun coughed and looked embarrassed. "Grandma, it's just that. It's just that I like her. I don't know if she likes me." The old madam was angry and amused. She pointed at his nose and said, "Look at you. Aren't you very popular with girls? Since she's so good, hurry up and chase her here." Bailey Yun felt wronged. "I want to, but she's not answering my calls or replying to my messages." The old madam was anxious. She stomped the floor with her walking stick. "Go to her house and find her." Bailey Yun laughed. His long and narrow foxy eyes slightly raised. "Grandma, why are you more anxious than me?" The old madam slapped him on the head in annoyance. "You're already so old, but you can't even get a girl. How can I not be anxious?" Bailey Yun's eyebrows were full of smiles. "Grandma, you haven't even seen her and you're already sure that she's suitable for me?" The old madam looked into his eyes seriously. "Ah Yun, you've played for so many years and have dated so many girls. You know who's suitable for you." Grandma just believes in your taste. The ice in Bailey Yun's heart gradually melted. He slowly curled his lips. "Grandma, thank you." The old madam patted his shoulder and said gently, "Ah Yun, we neglected you in the past. I hope that we can make it up to you in the future. I'm old, and I've seen many things. Right now, I only know one reason, and that is, family is the most important. No matter where you go, you have to remember that at home, there's still someone thinking about you." Bailey Yun was slightly startled, and then chuckled. "Grandma, I'll remember." The old madam smiled. "Go, get that girl as soon as possible." "All right." Bailey Yun came out of the study and stood in the empty corridor for a long time. On the way back to his room, he passed by Xiao Bao's room. He hesitated for a moment, raised his hand, and knocked on the door. "Xiao Bao, it's me. Can I come in?" Xiao Bao's voice was muffled. "Come in. What are you doing?" Bailey Yun walked into the room and saw Xiao Bao sitting in front of the desk. His back was straight, and he was holding a pen in his right hand, writing something quickly. Xiao Bao did not even turn his head. "I'm doing my winter homework. School will start in a few days." Bailey Yun stood behind him. "After you're done, I'll check for you, okay?" He tried his best to play the role of a father. "No need." Xiao Bao rejected him immediately. A certain someone was a little hurt. His fingers scratched the back of the chair, and he cried silently in his heart. Xiao Bao seemed to realize that he had rejected him too quickly. He puffed up his cheeks and added, "My answers are 100% correct, so there's no need to waste time checking." A certain someone was energized, as if he had been injected with chicken blood. "Then do you want to listen to a bedtime story?" Xiao Bao pursed his lips. "No need. I'm not in the mood today." "Oh." A certain someone was crestfallen again, and he sighed from time to time, like a resentful wife who had been abandoned. Xiao Bao's mouth twitched, and the handwriting on the exercise book became messy. He suddenly turned around and looked at the certain someone behind him, who was walking around resentfully. Are you bored? Bailey Yun's resentful eyes immediately drifted over, and he looked like a resentful wife. You don't seem to need me at all. I'm really an incompetent father. As he spoke, he squatted down and hugged his knees with both hands. He looked up and stared at Xiao Bao with pitiful eyes. Xiao Bao was about to explode. He slammed his pen on the table and shouted at the certain someone who was pretending to be pitiful, "Hey, you're an adult. Don't you think your current behavior is very shameful?" Bailey Yun shook his head fiercely. His gaze was pitiful, and his tone was desolate. I think it's more shameful to be ignored by my own son. Xiao Bao was about to go crazy. Why did he have such a shameless father? If you have nothing else to do, get out. Bailey Yun's tone was bleak. Son, don't worry about me. Please continue to ignore my existence. When you're done with your homework, just give me 10 minutes. We'll have a good talk. I can't do my homework with you here, okay? Xiao Bao threw caution to the wind. He moved a small stool over and sat in front of him. Tell me, what do you want to talk to me about? Bailey Yun patted his head. His foxy eyes narrowed into slits. Call me Daddy, and I'll tell you. Xiao Bao silently turned his head and stood up. He didn't even want the small stool. He sat back down on the chair in front of the desk, picked up his pen, and continued to do his homework. Bailey Yun was really injured. He hid in a corner and licked his fur to heal his injuries. After a while, he pretended to be light-hearted and said, Son, actually, I really do have something to talk to you about. Xiao Bao's body didn't move. He continued, in a few days, I'll continue to work in America. In a year at the latest, after the company enters the China market, I'll be stationed in China. If you want, you can come with me to America. If you want to stay in China, your parents will take care of you. I'll also come back to visit you often. The little guy still didn't make a sound. Bailey Yun lowered his eyes and said in a deep voice, Xiao Bao, I was born into an incomplete family. When I was very young, I told myself that if I had a child in the future, I must treat him well and love him. Although I still don't know how to be a good father, I'll work hard. Are you willing to believe me? He raised his head and looked at Xiao Bao. His small figure looked a little lonely under the light. He didn't respond, nor did he make any movements. Bailey Yun smiled bitterly and stood up. I won't disturb you from doing your homework. Finish your homework and rest early. As the door closed with a bang, the tears in Xiao Bao's eyes fell. Come and see, Hongcha 866. You're tuning into the A Romantic Tales YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.